Okay, welcome back everybody. Yeah, there we are. There's the microphone. Turn that down. Sorry about that, everybody. A moment of technical difficulties, but welcome back to the AEL Uni League for Dota 2, Season 2 of 2022. Myself, the Wandering Bard, I am here to welcome you, and welcome myself, really. It's always a welcome pleasure to be here, casting the cream of the crop of Australian university esports talent, and not just the cream of the esports talent in general, but of the talent for the very best esports game on the market, or indeed in gaming history, if you ask me. That's Dota 2. We're here tonight watching the showdown between two of our historically successful teams over the last couple of seasons. We've got UQ and also AUE Black, and there we go. Sorry about, Ob seems to be taking it easy tonight, but that loaded in. So here we are, we're at the draft already, but yes, UQ, they are the devoted lover Chads this season. There's a long sort of genealogy of UQ Chads squads, for those of you who've watched us from season to season. This is the latest and the greatest, but of course, many of the same names that you know and devotedly love. Infamous Amos, Pickle, Dunker Dunker, rocking in. And then, of course, opposing them, Adelaide University Esports Black, led by Psycho. I believe that's WDK. I'm not certain. Actually, WDK might be coaching this season. But yeah, we've got Psycho, we've got Big Rust, Unleashy, Vezwan, and G. Of course, most excitingly, it's not just a new season for us here at the AEL Uni League. It's also a brand new patch season for Dota 2. So, if this happens to be one of the first broadcasts you've tuned into in the last, I don't know, 36 hours, then this might be your first time seeing the new changes. We're already seeing some of the impact here as Hoodwink is a first bannable hero. The hero got some significant buffs, sort of not so much to its numbers, although those did get changed, but the swapping of her Aghanim Shard and Aghanim Scepter effects, leading to a slight reworking of both, I think left both of them in a much better place. And the hero, which was already borderline quite good in the previous patch, now definitely bannable material. But as you can see, at least in the minds of the players, we're not fully in a new meta yet. It may come to pass that the favorites of the past patch are forgotten, but for now, teams are still hung up on this save meta and on that Marcy pick. There are a lot of nerfs and changes to Marcy. I'll have to even pull them up, but they moved the stun around on her abilities. No longer is the stun on the reposition spell. It's not the relocate, but basically her repositioning spell, her toss back, has been changed to a slow. I now believe the stun is on the landing of her jump, which is a pretty impactful change when you think about it, right? Like having the mobility skill that you might otherwise flexibly use to get in or out of the fight, having that become your disable, like your primary means of initiating a gank, does kind of lock you into a lot stricter and more risky patterns of play, especially as support, which is where we're primarily seeing her. A really powerful offlane support, 4-position support with the ranged offlaners that we saw last patch. Of course, some of those ranged offlaners have themselves been hit with the nerf bat Death Prophet in particular, taking some heavy changes, almost reversions back to a much older version of the hero. But Ice Frog, in their infinite wisdom, has seen fit to change this. And Dazzle and Chen, also good friends from last patch. That healing and saving meta, really no worse than it was, even if the heroes individually have been tweaked. Teams still very comfortable running them. AUE Black, though, throw a bit of a curveball into the match mix. They follow up with an Earthshaker. Now, Earthshaker didn't really get changed that much. There's a slight decrease to the Fisher cooldown, but other than that, pretty much just the same hero that he was a patch ago. And, I guess if you are a big fan of Earthshaker, or you have some sort of particular combo in mind, that might be the plan. I'm surprised that we haven't seen several other bans come out yet. For instance, there's heroes like Centaur that got very significant changes early on. And with the Aghanim Scepter being shifted over to a new spell that puts a friendly hero in a wagon, like a taxi cart behind the Centaur, and drags them around. You can channel a CM ultimate or presumably a black hole while being moved around at Centaur speed, which is just wild to have to deal with. But that's a new Dota patch. That's the magic of it. There should always be a couple of really kooky things, and then a bunch of sort of slower developing changes. But one change that's not, slow to be recognized, Primal Beast. This hero also added to Captain's Mode, so I now believe we have the entire complement of heroes legal in Captain's Mode. A couple of teams have been trying it out at the AESL Malaysia tournament, but to mixed success, I'll say. The hero itself looks fine. I mean, it's pretty much the hero you know from your pubs. It's very, 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 very powerful in the early game and mid game. Basically no cooldowns, massive strength gain, the highest in the game, but so far these teams are shunning it. We're seeing continued bans to heroes that were popular last patch. Viper did benefit from a new shard, although I think he's been nerfed overall. We've got Bristleback, who I think is definitely still strong in this patch. A lot of neutral item changes seem to favor him, and Alchemist being banned out as well as Templar Assassin, Lifestealer, and Tiny. Now these are interesting choices because a lot of these heroes did literally just get nerfed, and what's more than just the direct nerfs to the heroes is one of the biggest changes to the patch. XP has been revised. The XP required to level is basically higher across the board. Also, there is significant reduction to the XP you get from killing a hero who was on a killing spree. It used to be that if you were playing a mid laner and you were, just stomping the game, but then you happened to get a little bit overconfident, you fed it up. This was a massive shift in levels, if not in gold, to the other team. Now, not so much. So this overall is going to have a massive chilling effect on the speed of the game. Here it's just, especially with how strong things like talents are in the modern game of Dota. Obviously, levels in ultimates are always strong. It just really, and having limited time to level your spells does also reduce the farm rate of most heroes. So many people are predicting a shift towards carries like Anti-Mage or like Alchemist, arguably. Heroes that aren't that level dependent, who mostly just like to hit creeps, who can harness gold very well, because you'll be able to get more power from gold, presumably relative to the power other heroes are gaining that's predominantly from levels. But AUE Black, they look to be gunning for taking advantage of a different change in the patch. Obviously, Undying Earthshaker Chen, it gives you a lot of early game pressure, tanky heroes all around, tons of heals, lots of pressure on towers, assuming they pick up maybe one or two more range sieges for when those Chen creeps lose their potency. But what I'm thinking of in particular is the change to creep waves. There's your building hitter at range, sniper coming in, might be a mid laner, could be a safe laner. That definitely does fall into the category of carry heroes who are more about farming gold than, just racking up XP, and who will benefit from a slower game in that sense. But what I was referring to is the banner creeps, or the standard bearer creeps. There are now one melee creep in every second wave, starting from minute 2. So starting from the third creep wave, every second creep wave thereafter, you have a flag bearer creep. It just looks like a melee creep holding a flag. Very obvious. It has a green aura on it, and it basically provides +3 health regen to all allies, which doesn't feel like a lot, but it's one of those things that is very significant for your creeps. It's sort of like a smaller version of a catapult, right? You think, okay, I gotta get in my catapult wave or stack up my catapults. That kind of dictates the risk reward of when to push a lane. This is a new smaller version of that. You can get that lane pushing tempo going earlier on, and I have to have half in mind that AUE Black are going to try and utilize that to create a real death ball, maybe even start stealing some of the enemy standard bearer creeps with Chen, because that is so much regen if you can keep those creeps alive. The flag bearer creep also has 40% magic resist. It can't be denied by spells, so it's not trivially easy to kill. And if you get some momentum going, AUE Black could easily just deathball this game up, despite some changes to make bases harder to kill. Again, in this patch, changes to glyphs, things like that have bought defenders a little bit more time. But UQ Big Chads, they're not picking very defensively right now. They follow up with an Ursa, great partner for the Marcy. You've still got this 1-2. You've got two very defensive heroes, though, in Dazzle and Jakiro. Might be the core Jakiro, or could be that the changes to Marcy see us leaning to her as a core now. But just looking at these heroes in the abstract in terms of what their skills do, Ursa is a hero that only needs the slight repositioning of the Marcy in order to get kills out of it, even in the laning phase. Even though it's no longer a stun, compensating for that with increased burst damage on the lane partner is one way to make this Marcy feel like it hasn't really been changed at all. So the Dispose, that's her Q. That's now a 20, 30, 40, 50% slow. It also throws a very slightly shorter distance. That's still good enough when you're playing Ursa Warrior. Ursa leaps forward, Marcy throws you backwards, and even though you thought that you were respecting the Ursa Bear's killer range, there you suddenly find yourself well within his claws. So bans still coming out here. We got to get to the business end of this Game 1 draft. Of course, it is going to be a best of 2 series. If you're not that familiar with Uni League, all the group stage series are best of 2. This is just week 1 of the new season, so we'll have plenty of time, plenty of best of 2s to help sort these teams out before we get to our, extended playoff series where things start to get a little bit more, we'll say final. But Razor getting a ban there. Monkey King banned out by AUE Black. Pretty reasonable, although that would have left them with a very melee damage heavy lineup. AUE Black themselves have kind of lent into melee, and I think they're just respecting having another hero like Monkey who, even from the very start of the game, can track the sniper. It's not just the mobility that you get from Tree Dance, but just the vision that Monkey provides really helps to get on top of Sniper. Ember, another hero who I believe was nerfed, or at least certain aspects of the hero were nerfed. You can no longer spam all of your remnants just onto one person like a giant bomb. There's been a 0.5 second cooldown added to that spell to try and adjust the hero's potential, but nevertheless, if you get an Ember onto the backline onto a Sniper, a hero like Earthshake can only protect him for so long, and that's something I'm noticing about AUE Black. They obviously have one final pick here as UQ. They use their last ban on Arc Warden, but aside from any creeps Chen may have, Earthshaker, the only real hard stun that they have to counter-initiate. If their sniper ever is spotted, obviously a good sniper player will try and linger outside the fight until enemy heroes with blink daggers and stuff are committed, but you just can't always get it perfect, and I'd like to see them have either a very hard save, like something that makes Sniper invulnerable, or even better, just another counter-initiation ability. Tidehunter got some pretty important changes in the patch. I've seen some people speculating that he might become more of a prominent hero in the meta with the secondary stun besides his Ravage, but that is not what AUE Black are interested in. They're going for even more tower pressure, even more tankiness, a little bit more carrying potential, and they're going to pick up a Chaos Knight. So this is starting to look like mid lane Sniper and safe lane CK, depending on the matchup. So if you're UQ, that does lead me to wonder like what you're wanting to lane up against a Sniper. It's probably not the Jakiro, I'd imagine, but Necrophos, that seems like a pretty viable choice for your mid lane. So it's going to be Jenkins on the Jakiro, Pickle on the Marcy, Amos on the Necro. Now, Amos I'm familiar with as their offlaner, I think. So, I could be completely wrong here. We'll have to see which lanes they go to. It is a new season. These players shift around some, but there has also been an uptick in the amount of melee carries in the mid lane again. It might be one of those patches. Been seeing Slark mids, Ursa with the little bit of mobility and the burst he can provide. Definitely one of those heroes who can go mid in a lot of matchups. We'll have to find out what these players make of the draft, of the patch, because we still are early enough on in things here that you don't really know what to expect. But in times where you don't know what to expect, of course, you turn to reliable support, and that's the support that we are very lucky here at the AEL Uni League to enjoy from our sponsors. First of all, which is Predator Gaming. Conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming today. Predator are the gaming PC partner of AEL. So, Predator, they put power and precision in your hands to elevate your gaming experience with quality and performance in every aspect of the product. Thanks very much to Predator for their continued support season in and season out. And of course, where would they be without the second Musketeer, AOC, the best viewing experience available to gamers. It's a global leader in monitor display technology for more than 50 years. AOC deliver an exceptional viewing experience to millions of loyal customers worldwide, including me. And today, the company offers its customers a wide selection of stylish monitors for home, office, or of course, gaming use. And lastly, we have Rig, our headset partners. They have what it takes to win. They develop headsets that deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. So join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience. And with that, we are getting into the game fully now. So let's jump into that view and see whether this level 1 action is going to amount to anything. Right now, we've got the classic Ships in the Night opening. A lot of teams going to the opposing high grounds. There were some changes to the way that these high ground ramps work into the neutrals that I think honestly have more to do with how Roshan plays out. This is a new interesting ward spot for both teams, but especially for Radiant to try and sneak something on the dire side of the high ground. Probably not so impactful at minute 1. It's still just more of a scissors, paper, rock toss up. And even though they initially missed each other, it looks like Unleashy is going to wander over and find infamous Amos. Amos looking very much like it is going to be a core Necro, probably a mid Necro. Offlane Earthshaker, supported by the Undying. Pretty much the lanes you would expect for the dial, except for Marcy, that is a support Marcy, right? I guess that's Radiant. Marcy going in on the CK. Offlane Marcy, it looks like. Pinning down Big Rust with the Dispose. That is a slow now, but, you know, at level 1 doesn't make much of a difference. That's still plenty enough of a slow when you throw them back into a Dazzle Poison Touch. And poor old Big Rust just wanted to get off to a good start here in Season 2 of the Uni League. He's going to start it out on the bench, taking an 8-second breather. Lucky the death timers are so low at level 1, but that's very unfortunate. The Chen support just not doing quite enough with that penitence at level 1 to protect the carry in the lane, or sorry, before the lane, I should say. The aggression getting started very early here, and it looks like that could happen more and more. It will be support Marcy, core Jakiro, offlane Jakiro here, being played by Jenkins, so presumably a fan of everyone's favorite long-haired Yankee offlane. Shoutouts to Dota content creation. And over here in the bottom lane, things are going a little bit more calm, but looks like, you know, with an Ursa in one lane and a Marcy combo in the other, not to mention a Chaos Knight on the Dire side, things are going to get aggressive here in the side lanes. In the mid, though, probably more of a farm fest. Two fairly placid heroes. At least it gives us somewhere that we don't have to look quite as much for the action. But there's one on this Earthshaker not afraid to brawl early, which is very interesting, right? Like, in the lane, the Ursa's getting kind of slapped around a bit more than you'd expect. 16 strength from Decay on the Undying, really helping with that. And Big Rust actually the first to go down at top lane. That pressure too relentless. And the Marcy gets another Dispose. Well, actually, no, it seems like Dispose are off cooldown. Might have just been the harassment from the Jakiro. Now she's going to get another Dispose, though. Poor Unleashy. Again, you think you're safe. You think, well, this hero got nerfed, but it can still do all of the same positional tricks it could. You just don't get stunned at the end, and it's looking like maybe that doesn't add up to as much of a difference as people thought, right? And we are sort of seeing that, obviously, when a new patch notes comes out, everyone kind of expects it to be a whole new world, but we're seeing much the same heroes dominate as Dunker lays into G, but you got to be careful here. Hops over and is able to take out the Undying. But it was a closer run thing than you'd expect. The Earthshaker ran out of mana there for Fisher, and with an extra stun, who knows how that engagement would have turned out. But so far, everything going the way of the Radiant. 4-0 all of a sudden. Even the mid lane farm slightly favoring Amos, veteran of the Uni League, doing well to get things set up here. Despite the fact that Psycho's starting to use that range, you'd expect that as the levels go up a little bit. I'm not saying that one hero will necessarily take the edge over the other, but that dynamic might lead to more opportunities for Psycho to really play this lane well and push the Necro back, right? Like, you can, as you get enough levels and take aim, you can presumably sit far enough back that there's no real danger of getting Death Pulse, and you can start to trade more aggressively without having to respect the Necro's spells. And VS1 getting chased out of the neutrals even, has managed to drag the creep wave though, so doing the job as a forward position. You can see that little standard bearer creep there as well, if you were following along, if this is sort of your introduction to the patch. There's one of you out there, I'm sure. Or Big Rust, getting frisky, or maybe just pump faking, just to show off. Decides to use the Chaos Rift, the Reality Rift to skewer last hits, which tells you how this lane is going. And Unleashy still just kind of forced to stay in the lane as the Chen support, has the Holy Persuasion here, but I think this is the problem. I'm not sure what lane you expected. This was the last pick Chaos Knight, so they had full knowledge of what the opposing offlane probably was when they saw it, or when they grabbed it, but you're kind of pinning your Chen to the lane here to try and help out Big Rust, and compared to other laning supports, you're not getting as much as you might otherwise. Obviously, we'll see Chen's real strength once a couple more levels are up on these heroes, and he's able to move around more freely. Maybe he's going to be able to help Psycho take over the mid lane, because right now, Amos, despite what I said about how the lane might eventually turn out, really going for it in the early levels, but you can see there, as soon as you aren't 100% committed and in range, you kind of have to go all in, as the Necro Psycho tapping down most of his hit points on the way back out of what looked like a really positive exchange for the Radiant mid laner. He's going to have control of the rune spots though, and I'm just jumping around because there's many potential kills set up here. Pickle understands the potential, goes for Unleashy again, and look how much damage Masu just does to the Chen. 64 damage, just punching away, and still had the rebound to leap onto Big Rust. There's the stun that you can see. No reposition just yet from the Dispose. Unfortunately, he's not predisposed to dying there. But infamous Amos, looking like a man who's just heard one of my jokes, hanging out under the mid tower, just in absolute pain and terror. And Big Rust tried to stick around in the lane, it looked like, on about half hit points. And I mean, it's one thing to sort of say, well, I survived that trade, even though it looked bad for me. But if you just try and hang in there in a losing lane, taking bad trade after bad trade, you're not going to stay alive forever. And yeah, this is going from bad to worse quickly. Only 1,000 net worth lead it amounts to, but it is at 5 minutes. So even that's quite significant, again, considering that the game is going to be a little bit slower this patch, most people assume, than we're used to recently. VS1, season opening, Neo goes in a bit deep, but it was all a bait. Beautiful, fires off the self-cast Shadow Wave. It bounces back, hits Dunker in the creeps, and that, along with the Ursa's own burst damage, is able to explode the Earthshaker. Just a support kill after all, but nice little bit of extra value gotten there. Dazzle's not like a support that typically can force kills to happen, especially under the enemy tower, so a little bit of cunning is able to draw the enemy into a dangerous position and get some extra value for the team. Of course, Neo still using and abusing those neutral camps to maximize what they get out of this safe lane, and all the lanes are really going well for the Radiant right now. Looks like they're pinging for maybe setting up another kill at top. They've pulled the Dire Creep Wave. Dunker does get a kill on VS1 down bottom, dives all the way into the tower. I thought there was going to be a bit more action top from the ping, but this Earthshaker, that's only the second death, but that is back-to-back death. So we'll have to do the Walk of Shame back to lane now. Maybe he can stack some creeps on the way back in. Dunker. I mean, this is a man who knows his limits, right? You try to bait him. He's able to bait the opponents out before. You can see G trying to bait him under the tower, but Dunker not biting, or it rather is biting. This is a rabid bear, but able to back off with a bit of good sense and a stick charge when the tower damage gets a bit too much. The damage continues at top lane. Big Rust goes for the Chaos Bolt. Some fancy footwork from Pickle, jumps away and back over the Bolt. The Bolt can't keep up. You would think that you would like travel into the Bolt in midair and maybe get stunned, but whatever the case, that interaction does not cancel the rebound, and so a lot of damage done to the Chaos Knight. Now, Psycho is able to chip away at this tower. There has been a Necrophos rotation to top. He's looking for that Reaper's Scythe kill. Really wants to get those first stacks online, although a little bit low on mana right now is Amos. No bottle running to try and secure that. Perhaps just respecting the control that the Chen is going to exert, and the fact that his team's own supports probably are married to their side lanes and not going to come and bail him out if the Chen was doing more to sit on the rune spots. Whatever the case, all of this adds up to not getting an early scythe kill. And Amos, I mean, maybe they're just committing to take this top tower, but this is a lot of space to give Psycho in the mid lane, and I have to imagine that it's starting to be more like he just feels he can't go back to the lane, although he is teleporting there now. I mean, Psycho is up to level 7. He's a full level ahead of this Necrophos now, and that's a lot of damage you can click away. Has chosen to skill Assassinate as well, so Amos will have to be careful. Even the Ghost Hit might not help him. Psycho sniffs it out. He knows this Necro was out of lane for a long time. No real reason to come back after you let Sniper chisel away at the tower so much, unless you were planning something sneaky, and stays beautifully an inch out of range of the Marcy. VS1, on the other hand, not so able to stay out of range of the Ursa. Ursa with phase boots now, getting more and more oppressive in the laning phase. This Earthshaker is still just level 4. That's the third death in just a couple of minutes. And even though no deaths have yet been laid onto Psycho Sniper in the mid lane, Marcy definitely lurking, but Pickle gives up on it. Way too canny, the positioning from Psycho, and of course the chip damage, right? Infamous Amos standing in the lane, there's just a hit point tax being applied. Dunker, he's going in so aggressively, has the Enrage, forced to burn it for very little there, just kind of jumped the gun. His Dazzle was not actually there to support him. Unleashy, though, dies at top lanes. They're just leaking kills right now on the Dire, up to 9-0 at 8 minutes 30. Now, it's not quite as bad as it looks, obviously. Kills aren't everything in Dota, but this is a lot of free gold to give your opponents, and if we jump over to the net worth chart, you can see that the Radiant are dominating it. Although Sniper and Undying are hanging in there, Chaos Knight is the one really suffering. Dunker thriving, but the Jakiro, actually, the top net worth, just shoving this lane in, as well as capitalizing on all the kills set up by that Marcy support. So, seems like rumors of this hero's death were greatly exaggerated. We'll see how it scales now into the mid-game. The ultimate was sort of the target of some significant changes as well, so we'll see whether that remains sort of a potent part of her kit in team fights. But if you win the lane hard enough, we're kind of seeing, at least we're testing in this game, the theory that it doesn't really matter. It takes a very strong opponent to be able to bounce back now that the kill streak changes, make it less rewarding to kill a hero who's been dominating you. There's one still just sticking around the bottom lane, has the mana boots at least, but just really not accomplishing much. And that's the funny thing, like this Undying still can't really even threaten a kill with the Earthshaker there. Big Rust, meanwhile, very threatened, very killed in the top lane, way behind the tier 1. There is no respite, although Neo does go down. They've finally overextended, it looks like. They've got the Tombstone and the Flesh Golem, and now they finally have the tools to bring these heroes down. Look at G lay in with that Flesh Golem VS1 as well, having the mana, crucially, that was absent in some of those earlier exchanges that made it look maybe more one-sided than this lane really was, and that was much needed. Not only the first 3 kills being won back to the side of the Dire. Did they get an extra kill across the map there? Psycho killed Infamous Amos in the mid lane. That was the one that I missed, and that's a big one as well. So, several valuable hero kills going the way of the Dire there. As we just see continued action, Jenkins is melting Unleashy. The damage on this core Jakiro is massive, but it's not quite enough to kill the Chen, and this Jakiro is way out of position. Psycho has a DD rune even, and the Mask of Madness. This is the consequence of Amos abandoning the mid lane, and it wasn't even for much, right? I'm not saying it was a wrong decision, but it was certainly an element of this game that was an undisputed dub for the side of AUE Black. And now Psycho. This hero is clearly meant to be the anchor for their team, and I always have my heart a little bit in my mouth when it's a hero that's as sort of fragile and exploitable as Sniper. But this is the kind of lead that you want to have. If you're this far ahead as Sniper, as long as you keep scaling your damage this well, you kind of just remain at the point where no hero can even step to you, because you will just out damage them and kill them before they can even bring the fragile Sniper low. And when you can consider that the only Radiant hero kind of keeping up with the net worth of this mid Sniper is a Jakiro, a hero that's just not going to 1v1 Sniper at any point in the game. Amos also not really poised to 1v1 the Sniper. Okay, gets hit by the Echo Slam, the Assassinate taking a while to come out from Psycho, and in fact, Amos was able to get off the Reaper's Scythe, and the regeneration from that alone completely negates the damage of the ultimate. That was such a strange engagement. I would have thought the Assassinate would come out the instant the Ghost Scepter was popped, or the Ghost Shroud, especially with that Echo Slam following, but perhaps there wasn't mana, maybe the cooldown was just not available. I didn't even click on the Sniper. I was so convinced this Necro is going to die, but just as they start to get a little bit of momentum, they give a little bit back the other way. Amos really feeling satisfied about all these stat items he's purchased. He's able to survive that engagement by the skin of his teeth. But VS1 has been able to recover at least in levels from the bottom lane. Neo reminding him of that difficult experience with some poison touch damage that's maxed already. So you can see just brutalizing the Earthshaker, but there's plenty of healing on the Dire, so now you can see this aggression seems to be the precursor for a push even on this top tier 2, or at least into the Dire jungle. They want to cut off the available farm space. There is a Sniper and a Chaos Knight, so this is a greedy lineup with a Chen in it to boot. Taking over their jungle would be quite a blow, even though both of those cores I just mentioned are currently happily farming in the space created by this move on the other side of the map. It's kind of a borrow from Peter to pay Paul, see the benefits later move from the Radiant here as they give up map pressure to take over the next part of the map. They expect these Dire heroes to farm, but can they hold it? Psycho rolling in with a haste rune at the ready and 2 neutral items. That's how you know he's a boss. That, or the fact that he just blew apart the Dazzle in about 3 auto attacks, and Pickle now running for his life in the jungle, in the trees as the Marcy, but the Shrapnel, there's no way out. Between Undying and Sniper, they will easily have vision. They do bring the Marcy down. It's just, cut away. Her death was such a foregone conclusion, but Amos not even pursued by Unleashy. They respect the tankiness of the Necro, and they're very happy to simply repel that aggressive move. So, real mixed bag of a game so far. We're seeing a 2k net worth lead to the side of the Radiant. That gold swing in that fight was still a positive to their favor. Dunker farming away on this Ursa. You'd have to be a little bit concerned about when the blink comes up. Already has a Diffusal ready and a Morbid Mask on the way. VS1 doing a really good job to recover so far in this game. The Tumbler's Toy might actually bail him out here. It looks like it's all a bait. Jenkins behind the team on this Jakiro. VS1 holds the Fisher as long as possible, but it turns out the damage it just isn't there. Big Rust maybe miscalculating. You can see that actually kind of calls himself out. That looked good for the Dire there. The Jakiro, a fragile hero to be in the middle of enemy lines, but maybe not so fragile as the Witchblade's actually been purchased up, and his team were there in time. Now the Dire arriving, but this is kind of just trickling in one at a time, 1 minute too late, and with only 3 behind the tower, that's an easy ultra kill for Necrophos, not something you see every day. Dunker definitely wanted to make sure he got a kill bounty, completes the Rampage, and yeah, that was just a miscalculation from the Dire. First, to try and dive with the Chaos Knight onto the Ursa, maybe not not respecting the Dire at all. They're kind of just assuming that that was a miscalculation or that there wouldn't be further reinforcements. They could double back for the Jakiro. Obviously, the Ursa would be a more valuable kill, but by not killing Jenkins, they kind of just surrender the potential effectiveness of Veswan's Earthshaker, and they really missed him in that fight there as the sniper just kind of arrives behind the tower, too close, in vision, jumped on and dies. So that's what I was worried about. And suddenly you look at the net worth chart. I mean, it was an ultra kill, but Infamous Amos, there's no hesitation now. We're building a Radiance. This is the new Radiance recipe, right? Or relatively new. Can't remember if that's this patch or a patch before, but yes, the Talisman of Evasion is all that stands between us and a Radiance Necro at 15 minutes. And I don't know, normally I might call that premature, but with how that fight just went, this could be a really bold way to take over the game, at least. It's been so long since I saw this build on this hero. Typically, we think of Necro as just a real tankmeister hero, buying the Guardian Greaves, buying a Ghost Shroud. So many good Necro items that just let you tank up. And you know, there are other heroes on the team to deal damage, so this is maybe not what I expected, but whether or not it was the original plan, Amos filling his oats right now. Definitely the team's spiritual leader, because Necro's a ghost. And we'll be leading them into battle and on the damage charts here once this Radiance is complete. Even hopping eagerly forward with the Tumblr's toy. Just putting it on cooldown, I guess. Psycho has to recover here. Unfortunately, that death was super costly. Anytime that you are, like, propping up your team on a hero like this, on this sniper, you've got this awkward dual responsibility to both be present in fights as your team's strong damage dealer. You're kind of the deterrent to the enemy team just running over your territory. But, like, this Chaos Knight is just not strong enough to be that right now. The Earthshaker doesn't have a blink. At the same time, you kind of have to keep out farming the enemy, otherwise you're going to fall off and no longer be able to do that. In fact, you have to be significantly ahead as the sniper to continue, posting up in the fights like this when the rest of your team is weak. Normally, you need them to be strong enough to protect you, not the other way around. And it can work out, obviously. Virtus Pro, multiple different incarnations, and several other teams beside have made great use of the sniper mids in the past. But it is really a snowball hero when you play it like this, and so Psycho has to kind of sack map control, go into the jungle, and hit a bunch of neutral creeps to finish the next item. You can see he has committed for not just the Mask of Madness, but also the Maelstrom. It's less of like a committed farming build than it would be on a melee hero, because obviously, you know, in an ideal team fight, you're just never getting hit, and this is a lot of damage to put out. But you really need maybe to even leave some of this farm to VES1. Earthshaker just a couple of 100 gold short of the Blink Dagger. That is going to be a big moment for them. G on the Undying has that Echo Saber, rocking it for the stats, I see. And Big Rust still trying to finish the Armlet. A truly impoverished Chaos Knight, but Psycho just gets picked off by Amos. The Radiance is ready. I'm trying to figure out what happened there. It looks like Marcy they just kind of called it out. Maybe they saw the shrapnel. There's a Radiant Ward here. That's brutal. Neo slips a ward up onto the high ground, and all it takes is one glimpse of Sniper. Marcy rebounds up to the high ground, you'd assume, disposes to the low ground, and this Sniper is going to burn to a crisp in seconds against Necrophos. So that's the third Reaper Scythe charge for Necrophos, who really didn't need any more survivability, and the pressure is mounting to an immense level. Philostone found by the Chaos Knight. This is one of those truly sad games where you'd almost want to keep it on your carry. That's how uninterested Big Rust is in fighting right now after that brutal laning phase he experienced. But Unleashy has the mech up on the Chen. It's been made cheaper again this patch, so has it access to it early along with the Hand of God, and they catch up Jenkins once again, standing a little forward. I mean, Kojikiro, yes, has a Witchblade for tankiness, has a 4-star for positioning, but you got to respect the stuns, especially against an Earthshaker. That being said, Unleashy equally out of position here on the Chen, cannot be saved by either of the big heals. So now, especially that Hand of God just kind of on cooldown for a couple of minutes. Maybe just wanted to use it, but it's weird to have the Chen be so far out front of the team. I maybe just assumed the Radiant would leave and was going for the D-Ward or something like that, or maybe they just figured he was the best possible sacrifice if you wanted to scout the opposing position with your face. 5,000 net worth lead, been fairly steady for the last few minutes, but it's not always just about the gold. Dunker sitting in that pit. Blink Dagger online for the Ursa. Psycho at least is a decent candidate to help control the pit from a safe distance, but really, what is a safe distance at this point? Already one Blink Dagger up on the Radiant. You have to imagine more are in the mail soon. And Jenkins going for that Ag Scepter straight away. The pressure on these towers is going to be massive. Heroes like Chaos Knight with the illusions or Chen with the army going to have trouble. Even the Sniper, you know, a pretty static hero, and Macropie is very long range. If he gets scouted out, you can make it hard for him to output the DPS he'll need to in fights, and he is really his team's DPS in these fights right now. So, you know, the next 10, 15, 20 minutes even looking like a real storm to weather here for AUE Black in their first game of the season here, Season 2 of Uni League 2022. Amos leading his team, smoking up to the high ground. They want to carry and they find one. Poor Big Rust, it's just not his day. Gets blinked on, and the blink allows the jump in. Counter jump though from VS1. It's a big echo slam. He's waited the whole game to hit that. Finally gets to feel a little bit of that hype ES feeling, and Dunker wasn't immediately killed the way his supports were, but he will go down in the end. And Psycho, that's the real damage there. Once the fight's been initiated, your blink daggers have been burned. Now your carries have been stunned by the Earthshaker. Psycho just unleashes from the low ground even, feeling completely safe. The Necrophos not going for tankiness or a blink dagger means that he's unable to get close enough to the Sniper. Just gets gunned down in milliseconds before that Reaper Scythe even has a hope of landing or just stunning the Sniper at all. So that's weirdly, for a fight which opened with your poor old carry player dying, basically as good as it could have gone for the side of AUE Black. And now they will look to take control of the Roshan pit. It's still too early for them to sneak it before the Ursa's back up, but if they continue to play around this top side of the map, or at least mimic the movements of the Radiant, they could be onto a winning strategy here. They are right to be fighting for control of this Aegis. If they just allowed... I mean, would you even give it to Dunker at this point, or would you give it to Amos after how that fight went? Regardless, they cannot give away the Aegis. They do give away a Scythe stack again to Amos, though. Hard to deny that one forever. VS1 going down, and without that Earthshaker available, you can see the difference in the fights. Psycho, though, has completed the Shadow Blade, so Dunker leaps up to the high ground. His team are not in a position to follow. The Marcy already used her repositioning skills, and no one else on the team has this Blink Dagger yet, and we're really starting to see a mismatch in the team fight capabilities of the Radiant as they take their second whiff team fight in a row. And since that one was right on top of Roshan, this may actually cost you the Aegis, and that is so crucial. This is a big problem here, and they might need to slow down until they buy a Blink Dagger. Amos, I mean, I'm not saying the Radiance was wrong, but maybe you need to play a bit more defensively in that case. Okay, Pickle goes all the way in. VES has bought back. There's a Fisher down now. That commitment, I assume that was Pickle making the commitment to bring down the Sniper. Psycho straying a little far forward, and Psycho does indeed die. It's a brutal exchange, but without the Sniper, there's not going to be the damage to kill the Roshan, it looks like. So that was a huge play there from the Marcy. I'm sad I didn't see it, but it's just... did not expect Psycho to be in a position to get jumped on. That's kind of been the story of the last few fights. So the Radiant, they definitely have the potential to kill these heroes, even the strongest cores of their opponents. But Dunker needs to be a little bit more careful that the team's all on the same page, or certainly they need to just generally save their mobility spells. Because if you don't have the tools to get onto the Sniper on any of your heroes, you will not be given a second chance to recover the fight. The difference between those two engagements, you know, Ursa was able to run the Sniper into the backlines at least, but without Dust, you know, that you have no hope of killing yourself. And really, you want to have a follow-up as well. You want to have what you had when they got the kill initially on the Chaos Knight in the triangle, which is Marcy rebounding in after you to apply a stun. But Psycho, working towards the BKB, we see Chaos Knight pulling in Jenkins, perhaps, or maybe just going for a creep wave. I heard Reality Rift go off. Maybe he was trying to Reality Rift out somehow, but regardless, just gets got. Jenkins has the pig pole and a force staff and a lot of slows, so this is just a really miserable game to be trying to farm outside your team's line of defense as the Chaos Knight. At this point, they're almost just dangling him out there as a sacrifice as he lingers well below the enemy offlaner on net worth at 23 minutes. Really rough times, and of course, Chaos Knight, not really a hero that catches up too well. Committed to the armlet. With the way the CK was playing, I could have almost seen the justification to go for a Midas, but ultimately, they don't need the CK to even become a real carry at any point in this game, so long as Psycho keeps scaling. I do believe this is a game where Sniper can pretty much do it alone. If the CK is kind of just playing more of an offlaner role, being a disabler, being a nuisance in the fights, kind of just stopping heroes getting to the Sniper, sometimes that's all you need. Speaking of keeping Sniper alive, you can see Unleashy here rolling around in a stack. Even put his courier there to make it seem like a bigger army. Just has the golem now, it looks like, actually, for creeps. That's a pretty strong aura, at least. And there is a blink up on the ES. I mean, we saw that in the previous fights, but You know, it's so powerful. And with that Philostone, he's got the shard as well, working towards... I wonder if it will be an Ags for the next item. You'd almost wonder if it would be either a tool of control, something like a Yules if you want a cheap one, a 4-staff maybe to help your team out, or a Halberd, or whether you just go for the reposition disable. They are going to find out this Jakiro is an illusion, and that might not clue them in time to where the Radiant actually are. Great. Oh, VS1 kind of jumps the gun there. Blink echoes. They baited it out beautifully. He assumed they would just be barreling in, but you could have afforded to hold that, and now with the Blink echo down, things look really dicey for the Radiant. They've already lost 3, including their sniper. The heroes who survived do so basically by dint of not being there, and that was beautiful execution. Great movement around the map as a team by Amos and co. They used that Jakiro illusion very, very well, kind of just drawing the enemy team, not into them per se, but just kind of distracting them for a second, loop around on the high ground under the Radiant ward with a smoke. They were never suspected, and this dire ward sentry combo helped set all that up. And unfortunately, VS1, I understand the pressure you're under as the Earthshaker there. Already hit a couple of really strong counter initiations, and you just assume that they're not ready for you to jump. But of course, they had the wards here. They could see the Earthshaker was there the whole time, and they only sent the Marcy forward. So all of that snowballs into a bunch of kills, a bunch of gold, 27 to 15. And an Aegis, and even though it's still just a 5k net worth lead overall to the side of the devoted lover Chads, I can't help but feel that this is the worst situation they've been in for the whole game over on AUE Black. Like, Amos was weaker with that just a Radiance, but now with Kyra and Sange and a Hood, we've sort of recovered the tankiness, kind of all leveled out to where you'd expect a Necro to be at this time of game, or at least a Necro who is flying along at the top of the net worth, 2,500 gold ahead of this Sniper, who's not having a bad game in his own right. But Amos, you can see, just continuing to melt down creep camps, dire creep camps as well, and if he's able to pick up this haste rune, things could look really bad in the next fight. Psycho getting up on the high ground, Unleashy putting his body on the line to scout things out, and does reveal Dunker, who leaps forward, putting that on cooldown and his blink as he is hit. And Unleashy, though, unfortunately was blocked by the Fisher, he blocked more so by the enemy movements and slows, but decides not to lead his team back into the Sniper, and VES1 unable to secure a kill with that stun back the other way, unable to even secure the Aegis. I thought that maybe Dunker would be out of position there, but unfortunately, the pressure of just the rest of the Radiant looming behind him means that there's no ability to commit, and at least the Ursa is too tanky for Psycho to bring down all on his lonesome right now. Still trying to correct that, building up Crystallis, Silver Edge to follow, but yeah, you do need some support from your team. If not in terms of damage, then at least in terms of being able to blink in and fire off a stun, but maybe discouraged by how that last blink echo went, VS1 chose not to do it that time. I mean, that's the power of vision, right? Radiant had the ward on the high ground previously. It's now been dewarded, but you know, having wards on the dire high ground now on the top side where they play, that was the setup for the next kill. And look, I'm sure that the Dire are aware of this, right? Like, you're not unaware of enemy vision when something like that happens. You go, okay, well, they wouldn't have been playing like that. They wouldn't have been so canny. They wouldn't have respected our positioning. They wouldn't have avoided our bait. They must have a ward. But it's one thing to say that, and another thing to get control of your side of the map back when you've got these really sustainable hero lineups, especially Necrophos and Ursa, who are just able to go and go and go, and a hero like Marcy, who's always able to find the initiation, as she does now, tosses VS1 back in, immediately disables the blink dagger, not that would have mattered, pretty much straight away clapped on the head with the side, and the Sniper, who was judging he was a safe distance away from the fight, Psycho kind of looking for his position at the side of the fight, realizes he's actually wandered into the middle of it, because wherever Dunker goes, that's where the fight is. Ursa carves up the Sniper, must feel good to get your claws on him, Unleashy going down in the sort of junk time of that team fight. And so, yeah, there's been a couple of nice bits of play. You know, there's been good overall kind of just conservative Dota map usage, farm efficiently being extracted by the Dire, especially Psycho has been playing this game quite well to keep the team sort of in reach of their opponents. But the momentum has never really experienced a sustained shift back in the favor of AUE Esports Black. Oh, I guess it's Adelaide University Esports Black. You don't want to acronym. But regardless, Dunker and the boys, they don't have time for any of this nonsense. They are inexorably moving towards their first win of the season here. Love to start off on the right foot. And not just Psycho, but the entire team is going to have to lift here. We've seen a couple of individual heroics, but right now, it just seems they've never been able to recover from how rough the laning phase went. And the first couple of fights they took. You just can't give heroes like Necro and Ursa this big of a lead, and especially not when you're trying to, catch up to them as a hero like Chaos Knight. And, this takes me back again. Big Rust. I'm not blaming the player necessarily. This hero looks like it's been very hard to play in this game from the early levels, but this was their final pick of the draft. So if it is the hero, unfortunately, my brothers in Christ, you picked it. You have to be able to show us why this Chaos Knight was a good idea, and I expected it to be an offlaner. This Earthshaker, this offlane Undying has been present in the game, I suppose, and maybe we're yet to see what they really picked it for. It does scale much better than it used to. We can see with this Ogre Seal totem on the side, you can even pretend to be a stunning initiator yourself, but yeah, we can see right now how much trouble they have stopping that train of initiation, right? One hero gets jumped, and if the Blink Echo isn't available, which is a pretty, inconsistent thing, you just sort of don't have any recourse, and it leads to there being more kills when you try to fight, because you can't pin the fight down in one place, apart from that 1 or 2 successful engagements where Vers1 did come up big. Every other time, it's just, oh, Sniper tries to join the fight, well, he's blinked on and killed too. And the supports are there watching their hero die. Okay, well, they can't break it up, and now they're going to get run down. If you had a Centaur or a Tide or, I don't know, just another hero that kind of can throw out some reliable teamfight control, just slow things down a little, that might be the buffer they need to actually bring some of their abilities to bear. But right now, they are just unable to resist the offensive momentum of the Radiant. And unfortunately, in spite of all that aggressive talk, the last couple of minutes have been pretty static. Just take a look at the graphs here for a second. You can see it has been back and forth, right? It's not been all one-way traffic. However, you could easily just draw a straight line graph from where we started and the laning phase to where we are now. Every swing down in favor of AUE Black has been matched by a swing upwards, at least in gold and XP, to the devoted lover Chads. Now, the AI win predictor is starting to favor the AUE Black lineup more, just because I imagine Sniper in the late game gets a lot of points from the computer. But we all know that the AI is only mostly accurate. And of course, the AI still predicts a 75% chance of defeat. So, not great odds. That being said, it's kind of interesting. I guess they're waiting for another Aegis. The last Aegis I don't think was even used, really. Wasn't expended in battle. But, so we've gone from one farming Aegis to another. Now that all the outer towers are down, I think it's just respect for the power of the Sniper. VS1 going in again and just face-checking this stuff. I don't really understand. I mean, I understand the concept, and they are able to get a kill, right? You need someone to go forward. You need someone else to take the blow, and at this point, taking the blow of the enemy initiation probably means death for anyone except Undying. I suppose I don't understand why it isn't your BKB Undying. Maybe he isn't juicy enough bait. Maybe he looks like a hard kill. Send the Chen forward. The Chen at least can maybe, fire off a Hand of God or delay or use the creeps. If the plan was to use the Hand of God to save the Earthshaker, that did not work out. But at least it's a trade. And it's more gold into the pockets of Psycho, who really needs to finish his BKB. I mean, it's been a desperate rush. One of those really awful, sick-feeling carry games where you feel like you have to build every item in the game simultaneously to be able to do everything your team requires of you. You must be all things to all men in a game such as this, because poor old Big Rust, barely a shadow in this game so far. Just all he can do is play the economy game and hope that things drag long enough that eventually this Chaos Knight will feel strong. And luckily, CK is kind of that hero that hits a certain point, probably in just 1 or 2 more items, where, at least for supports, you are just a holy terror. Like, you can just obliterate people. Although these are beefier supports than we're necessarily used to. You can still threaten kills. You can still threaten buildings, at least with your Phantasm. Still much reduced in his role compared to what I imagine they had in mind for their final pick of the draft. And everyone else on the team really hurting, having to pick up the slack. But as this lull continues, I imagine, yeah, we can see that not only the resources, but the win percentage, expected win rate is drifting very slightly in favor of the Dire. Must be heartening, if they could see it. And so G on this Undying, They've kind of been protecting this Undying, really want to make sure he scales up as a core. I imagine it's sort of a counter to the Ursa. And while just having a lot of health isn't necessarily a counter to the Ursa, the Flesh Golem is pretty good against him. The Tombstone, I think, is pretty tremendous against the Ursa as long as the Ursa doesn't get to kill it, right? The zombies, anything that helps kite the Ursa, helps slow him down, helps limit his mobility even beyond, you know, the small amount he already has, is very, very powerful. And the Undying, especially with the Shiva's Guard online, might actually be the one confident enough to stand in the path of all that burst. Obviously, nothing's going to live if you get the combined attention of the entire Radiant team on you, but you know, it's a start, especially with Chen behind you. And for once, the smoke onto the Dire Triangle doesn't work out for Amos and co. They're too savvy, grouped as 5 in the bottom lane. Psycho just farming out of sight of their opponents. And again, I got to give AUE Black credit. They're definitely come off the rougher from this game thus far, but they have at least been sticking to their guns. Like, this is not a team just kind of throwing heroes at the wall and hoping for the best or playing their individual games like a pub. This is a team with strat in mind. You can see they know how to play around the sniper. They understand what's important and what's not. And their decisions so far, I feel like it's a weird thing to say or to give a team, you know, a W for, but it's not as bad as it could be. Like, given what a deficit they found themselves at early on and the kind of strategic implications of, like, Amos getting so much gold out of those early fights, this is already further into the game than I thought we would get. And Psycho gets thrown further back into the enemy team than he thought he would get, but a great bit of counter initiation. The whole team's behind him, and maybe the Radiant kind of knew that because they weren't very committed. They kind of just sent Pickle in, and then basically as soon as there was a fissure into Shadowblade from the sniper, there was no further willingness to dive in, no dust, no reveal coming out, just a full-on retreat and abandoning of the support Marcy. Also abandoning that bounty rune there. Not sure about that one, but you can see they're very respectful. They do not want to give up kills. Although, Dazzle might be in trouble. Big Russ has the BKB and finally feels like he can live up to his name. He's definitely a big boy now, at least compared to a poor pink support hero. Neo finally suffers a little bit of comeuppance for the punishment he was able to dole out to the Dire off lane. As Big Rust now pinning down Amos. More stuns. No immediate follow-up, but that was the whole of the Ghost Shroud. So now you look at the damage coming now. They try and throw him back. They even dispose him away, but G is on him. Although Psycho forced to leave the kill behind. G, so beefy on the Undying, he's able to finish the Necro off, but can Psycho avoid a similar fate? No, he cannot. Both mid-heroes chased down by scary BKB cores, although now G is able to turn back around, bailing out the Chen temporarily. Chen does eventually die, but so does the Ursa Dunker. Again, it seems to be a theme in this game. He's able to get the kills, but they're able to kite him for long enough. This Ursa hero is feeling partially nullified. He again has to overcommit and pay with his life. What a reality rift! Rips infamous Amos back to the other side of the fissure, all the way back to the wrong side of the tombstone, and crucially onto the wrong side of Psycho's attack range. That is a dieback for infamous Amos, and the sniper brought back as well, but you would definitely feel okay being on the side of that exchange if you're the mid laner who gets to kill your opposite number for the second time. Big Rust, though, kind of missteps. A rough game continues. Maybe just look, I definitely understand when you finally start getting kills on the carry. You've worked very hard to get back into this position, but the rest of his team was setting up for Roshan. He just kind of drifts up the hill, maybe assuming that there weren't enough forces left on the side of the devoted lover Chads to spell his doom, but that is just what they spell out. And these three heroes now holding the Roche pit against the mid sniper Psycho. Maybe he'd take them on if he hadn't just bought back. If he hadn't just sort of proved the hubris by causing Necro to die back. But even with this Witchbane sitting in the backpack, not interested in taking a risk against the remnants of the Dire. And so with Roshan still alive and on half health, holding that free shard, it looks as though this Ursa is able to fully respawn. I would never have thought that after the Necro died back, that they would be able to just take control of this Roshan back basically without a fight, but that's what we're looking at right now. And VES1 kind of just wanders down the hill to see whether they're doing it. I'm not sure what's happening with these feeds from AUE Black. I mean, their vision right now, I'm sure, is mediocre at best. This OBS, though, it shows you a lot of what's happening, and if you thought that they were just going to give up this position around the Roche pit after Dunker has already respawned, then you must be very optimistic. I'd love to have your outlook on the world. Dunker picks up the Earthshaker kill, picks up the Roshan kill, picks up the Aegis, picks up the Shard, eats the Shard. This is a threatening Ursa. And once again, the momentum just steadies itself in the favor of the devoted lover Chads. Every time we get a swing back one way, there is some sort of unfortunate happenstance that limits how much the Dire are able to capitalize off it. And so AUE Black, they're back to just farming again. Their Sniper has to catch up to this Necro. Their Chaos Knight has to catch up to everybody. Their Undying is doing a great job of keeping up now, and you can see in that fight, he was strong enough with that Aghanim's buff decay. That's threatening now to, every hero, not just strength characters. He was able to run down and finish off the Necrophos, but I don't think that, as good as G is playing, you can really feel good about going to the late game and relying on this Undying to pull his weight as like a damage-based core. At some point, this does just become a utility hero, more or less, and at that point, you're really all in on Psycho, and I have to imagine it gets worse for you over time. Marcy's got the Blink Dagger up. If at some point she'll have that support BKB, and she'll at least be able to get some sort of disable off on the Sniper. Blink Dispose, a rebound onto Psycho is going to be very punishing. Force out that BKB that Psycho will presumably also have. You've got the Ursa running at him. We saw last time Ursa BKB. Not much they can do about that if Fish is not available and the positioning isn't perfect. And we can see actually not even waiting for the BKB to go in. Pickle just lands the Dispose rebound, although there is the counter initiation here. The Reaper's side does bring Psycho down. Not immediately. I don't think it counts for a stack, but there's just too much damage coming out. Even with the Chen there, the Mech and the Hand of God, all of the saves and defense this team can muster aren't enough because the Sniper was just too far forward without the safety of the higher ground or any other sort of defensive terrain. He goes down, and the Wraith Pact, maybe that would have been enough, but it just wasn't quite complete by the time that engagement happened. And so Psycho, that feels like the first time that's happened, arguably the whole game. Obviously the 7th death, but a lot of that's been fighting. It's in general on the map, he's played so well from the laning phase onwards to be able to avoid unnecessary deaths. Maybe that was a bait, but every other bait has been a hero being dangled in front of Sniper, not the other way around. And if they thought it was time to go for the alternative, well, they've been proven wrong, and it's going to cost them a lane of racks, it seems like. No buyback on the Sniper either. Of course, he did buy back in that earlier fight. Amos got his dieback out of the way immediately, and so he's here to push down the Raxes. And with the melee racks gone, it looks like they're playing it super safe. They actually sniff out the Chaos Knight being behind them. Big Rust feeling maybe a little bit desperate, a little bit opportunistic, trying to find a support that he can try and assassinate with the Reality Rift combo. And yeah, we're at the Fisher blocking our high ground period of time. This one, almost lucky not to get blinked up on there after that spell was used, but instead, it's his Chen who pays the price. No counter initiation from the Fisher means easy decision to blink forward as the Ursa Warrior doesn't even need to use the BKB. And this could just be a chain feed now. This could end up being the game if they're not careful, and G oversteps Big Rust, trying to get the defense going, using all his spells, but it's not enough. Even the beefy Undying, it all turns out to be a mirage, those hit points. That's what I mean. This hero just... this is not a real hero to be getting farm on. And the fact that this was the hero who is out farming your Chaos Knight for most of the game, it's obviously not their fault, but it is an indictment on how this game has gone and a celebration of the good strategic focus of the Radiant in really punishing and not allowing space to Big Rust at all this game. And Pickle's just a menace on this. Marcy, whatever they did to the hero's values, that fundamental power to just leap forward and then toss the hero backwards, right? Any repositioning skill is incredibly powerful, and it's like a more reliable tiny toss in some ways, or a more mobile tiny toss, especially now with the Blink Dagger online. More than enough to get the job done when Dunker is such a menace. Psycho baiting the Ursa to jump in. Goes in Viz, pops back out. Dunker probably losing the Aegis for this one, but how much is that worth? Actually turns, pops his ultimate, and is that a Satanic? And he's able to easily heal back up. Yeah, it is a Satanic. He's mulching through them now. He does go down on the backlines, but that's just the Aegis finally, and this Sniper has been stunned up, gets a force off from his team. They're turning it well, though. This is exactly the kind of fight a Sniper would need to recover in this spot. It might still not be enough. Psycho has to be really careful. Actually, whoa, he dies. He steps into the Macropire. You've got to watch out for that. The hitbox is a little wide. That, unfortunately, is a deserved tip. It's almost like he knew the Macropire was there, but he kind of tried to step forward. He was so desperate to follow his team in, but between his team's own Fisher and the enemy Macropire, all it takes is one touch of that Magma, and you're burning for the next couple of seconds. Magma, it's sticky, and it just kills the Sniper instantly. after the fight was all said and done for him. And so without that, that's just going to be a really anticlimactic, if not a little entertaining, end to a difficult game for AUE. They're going to feel lucky that this is a best of 2. Of course, warm-up game, first game of the season. Don't have to worry too much about it. Bounce back, fellas. But for all that I've praised them for in this game, they do need to tighten up their picks. And actually, there has been a DC. We've got a pause, so it doesn't look like that was sort of a preemptive GG. Unleash, you just maybe having some trouble. But yeah, brutal stuff. After, I mean, you can see, you can almost tell how much pressure Psycho's been under, right? You got to direct your team. You got to be the carry. You got to out-farm. You have to, and not just any carry, but like Sniper, a hero who can never really relax. A hero who has to be constantly on edge, really watching your positioning and targeting at everything at all times. It's a lot. And so, you know, at the end of the game, to step into a Macropire after almost turning around a triumphant team fight, or more or less doing it, and then unfortunately misclicking and turning it into a bit of a Pyrrhic victory, it's understandable. We're going to find it out to the last, though. It is a sniper draft, and with Dunker and Co. not feeling comfortable forcing those last couple of base towers, looks like we might be waiting on another Roshan even, which would be another couple of minutes in this game. I'll try not to get too post-mortem-y yet. This could easily be a turnaround. Hope everyone's ready for an 85-minute sniper tier 4 defense. But no, I think between all the different heroes that can jump on the sniper and blow him up here, there's more than enough tech available. There's just not enough support. So they can focus everything they have on this sniper still. Big Rust going for a halberd. You can see how much the team is just all in on trying to bail out Psycho, but to do enough damage to actually kill your opponents and whittle them down, while also being able to kite them around your team's abilities when your team doesn't even have that many great kiting abilities. Pretty tough. And AEST now picks up even more burst, grabbing onto the Havoc Hammer. Some damage, some strength, some knockback. Interesting to see this item get returned to the game. This neutral item obviously has been in Dota previously, was taken out, was kind of underutilized. There was one patch which was very, very broken, if I recall, and then not. But hasn't really been tweaked, I don't think, since the last time it was in the game. Still just the same values, and it's a nice, slight extra nuke. Helps certain supports clear creep waves who might not have a great spell for it. Can help you control positioning in fights, create some space for a melee carry. Obviously beefs your hero up a little, you know. Compared to other tier 4s, is it the best? No, but it is a bit of fun. And all of these neutral items are fairly experimental anyway, right? It seems like Icefrog likes to play it fast and loose. Speaking of fast and loose, Wraith Pact up on the Chen, obviously, you know, a shadow of its original self, but still pretty powerful item, especially in this sort of scenario, defending your high ground. Sniper also arguably it is strongest here. Oh, I mean, almost inarguably it is strongest here. The high ground defender du jour. Him and Medusa. I mean, I say du jour like it's not every jour, but Dunker. Yeah, you gotta be careful about stepping into range there, but not so careful. They are very, very ahead here. It was a 5k gold lead for a very long time. It's up to 26,000 net worth. That is a lot. Even in the late game when that gold tends to turn into kind of like funny numbers, a lot of it's just sitting on core heroes. You know, it tends to matter more about like which heroes have the items and which items they are. But Psycho, one item he still doesn't have is a BKB. Has to be really careful. That was clutch, just slightly too slow on the follow-up of the Marcy, where the Radiant, as a result, Psycho's able to get that Hurricane Pike, even get on the correct side of her and Hurricane Pike backwards, and the team throws down the defense. So there was a great jump by Pickle, but the team just wasn't quite ready. The Ursa, like, literally, say, 0.2 of a second slow getting in there. And that's going to force them back off the base. So, successful defense number 1. And now they're even outside the base, getting brave. They kind of have to. They draw out a Hex onto the Sniper. That's the Hex drawn out. And now Amos, he's getting a very early shallow grave. Way too early. And they just bring him down. They didn't even really stop DPSing him. Dazzle maybe just feeling pressured himself. Unleash isn't even going to die. We're seeing all this healing come into play. They can't kill anybody. Psycho, though, he does still have to fear Dunker. Another grave coming out, but there's another 4 stuff. And now the Sniper turns. 2 heroes laying into each other with lifesteal, but there's an Ice Puff coming down, so there's no defense for the Sniper. And Dunker, the Satanic and Ursa are always going to win the trade, even with the brave Sniper turning. That's a Mask of Madness on the other side of things, not a Satanic. The two are not equal. And so now it has to be Big Rust. He has to step up. He does kill Neo. His other cores are dead though. Sniper is actually back in the game. Sorry, did buy back immediately. Chaos Knight actually already bought back. So this really is the last stand. And they're laying in. Luckily though, there's nothing left in the tank really for Dunker, or at least in terms of mobility. The BKB's down. The Blink is down. And so he can pop the Enrage, but it just means that Psycho takes a little bit longer to kill him. And with the Shrapnel charger still up, he might get more kills. Pickle comes sliding in on the Marcy, who has not bought back this fight. Almost everybody back. Okay, almost everyone on the Dire buying back. Pickle has just been playing on the edges of this fight, it seems like. Obviously, in the high ground, Marcy has to be careful about how to commit. And again, really want to commend this 3 and 4 duo out of the Devoted Lover chat. Great play so far. Jenkins making this core Jakiro look really good. I haven't been able to sort of, you know, cry out for so many highlights, but that's kind of the nature of Jakiro, right? You're just putting out Liquid Frost, Liquid Fire, Ice Path, Dual Breath constantly throughout the fight. You know, sometimes you hit a 3-man Ice Path like you did there, and it turns the, you know, the carries duel, but most of the time you're just happy to provide a constantly thrumming teamfight engine that is pushing your team towards victory. And so as spirited a defense as that was, that's basically all the buybacks out of the Dire. Chikiro now picks up a Revenant's Brooch, the upgraded Witchblade. This has been in the game for, I think, 2 patches now, but just to remind everybody, if you haven't seen it, ups the intelligence and attack speed significantly. Huge projectile speed, true strike on the attacks, not that important, but you're able to hit ethereal units. So now, no more Nonbo with the F-Blade. You can F-Blade someone in the Macropire with the Liquid Frost slow on them. You have to imagine that person is not moving, even if they aren't Ice Pathed. And the damage coming out of this hero, the magic damage is immense, against which this is just a sign of how this game's gone. Psycho had a BKB queued up for basically the last 30 minutes. Before that previous engagement, and just was never able to go for it. You can't afford to slow down and buy a BKB, because if you aren't putting out all the damage you possibly can, the enemy team are just going to ignore you for the duration of your BKB, or they're going to stun you before you get it. This is a big kill, though. That is very rare. We spent the whole game watching the Dire heroes get their cores picked off here and there around the map without any sort of response really coming from the opposition. This time, Infamous Amos slips up, gets caught, and finally, a little bit of vision, a little bit of map control, a little bit of initiative and momentum being reclaimed by AUE Black. I'm very curious about the graph now. Okay, it is as high as you'd expect, but it's not at 100. And Psycho, if you've got a 10% chance to win the game, you have to understand that that 10% is probably not you sitting on the high ground, playing extremely conservatively, and spending your money on that long away to BKB. It's going to be you buying a Divine Rapier, getting a little bit lucky, and not having this happen to you. All I can say to that play is that you must have thought that the Dire were either literally in the Roche pit with 5 or with 4, or in your triangle their own junglers 4. I guess you figure that with the Necrophos being dead, they wouldn't be moving around on the map. But I mean, when you look at where the rest of the Dire are, and you look at where the sniper just died, they're so far from being able to do anything about that. Like, that was, and this is a sniper with no buyback. Really just, like, 95 to 5 odds. Even worse, that you just say, okay, I'm going to give my opponents the game here. Now, granted, when you're already on, you know, 9 to 1 odds, maybe that's actually not so bad. But I was meaning that you should take a big risk in terms of buying a Divine Rapier, not walking down the mid lane to farm that Divine Rapier completely on your own as a sniper who can just die to any stun. The Lincoln's, unfortunately, not enough to protect him. I guess that's it, right? You figure that between Lincoln's and Silver Edge, maybe you can get away, but yeah, no, not against a team as coordinated as the Devoted Lover Chads. And so, Sniper in the ground, he has gotten this extended buyback death out of the way, I guess, and it hasn't cost them their throne yet, as Dunker makes the decision to go back for this next Aegis. Free Aghanims for somebody on the team. Interesting to see the Ursa rocking the Spell Prism as well. I can't see what other neutrals they have. They have access to a Penta-Edge Sword, and look, I'm not saying Spell Prism is bad. It's pretty great on every hero, but I think the extra range on the like, the main thing you want that Spell Prism for, surely it's as much for Earthshock as anything else. I guess now that you have the Eggs and Shard, having the spell cooldown is probably better than having the extra attack range, but no matter. When you're 35,000 net worth ahead with an Aegis, you can kind of pick up whatever neutral items you want. And so this game has now stretched to nearly an hour, which is pretty long for Dota in 2022. So, you know, that's what we mean, right? Like, we're nearly an hour into this game. There's been plenty of kills. 48-29, 3 Roshans have died. Lots of farm from both sides. You got to think that the available net worth and the available kind of resources in the game are pretty high. No one is level 30. No one's even level 28 yet. That's just kind of how this has gone. 16-4 though on Jenkins on the Jakiro, making this look terrific. Rocking that Leroy Jenkins avatar. Nice stuff too. Amos also having a very strong game on the Necro despite a few difficult deaths. That's kind of just how the hero is against Sniper. And now Dunker also happy to put his own life on the line for the good of the team. Not that his life is particularly in danger. There's a lot of cooldowns here to work through. The Enrage itself, the midi Enrages that'll spam out from this Earth Shock, the Satanic, the Blink, the BKB. There's even a cheese in the backpack. There's an Aegis on the Ursa. They are set up to siege here. I kind of wish they had someone else do the sieging because, like, ideally the Ursa is ready to jump on whoever gets slightly out of position and gets targeted by Pickle. But you can see when Amos walks forward, it's just not quite the same. Didn't ever end up buying a heart or anything else to tank up against the Sniper here. So kind of just relying on his armor, and this could be a risk. While you're walking forward, the non-Aegis carry. Wow, Dazzle gets the Grave off just in the nick of time. Their Reality Rift pulled him back. They had a lot of faith. Pickle, though, he's going to be the sacrifice all the way in with no support as the rest of the team focuses on bailing out Amos. Dunker goes in, zones out the enemy, lets Amos walk back up the hill, and he kills the Tombstone, which is crucial. Might give Dunker the chance to get out, at least in his second life. Neo protecting that first life, though, not prepared to give it up just yet. And the Earthshaker blinked into the back line, maybe hoping to stop the Dazzle from doing just that, but misses the mark, lands in front of the Jakiro. He gets melted very quickly. Remember, this is a core. Jenkins lets rip with the E-Blade and destroys the opposing Earthshaker. No Raxes down. Another buyback forced out. Was that just the one? So it ended up being essentially a 1-for-1 trade. They lost the Aegis. They forced a buyback. It's hard to say whether that's even a win from a neutral starting position for the Radiant. So, I mean, these defenses are coming out. Psycho hasn't given up the ghost yet. And is that courier is in the shop for Sniper? Oh, look at this. This is half. That's the rapier. Has the rapier. This courier pops everything. Just charges back to base. It wasn't even seen. They may not. I mean, listen, you probably think you know what the Sniper is going to build. And look, the Necro's courier arrives a second later to try and scout. I'm sure they have some idea. And in fact, they can click on the Sniper. No pings coming out yet. But this Divine Rapier, it won't stay a secret for long. But boy, if they haven't fully latched onto that idea yet, Psycho, I mean, unfortunately, he has to kind of click the creeps. So they're going to know. It would be absolutely disgusting if you're able to pop out in the middle of a fight with that. And just even the second it takes you to realize the Sniper is doing, like, triple the damage you think he was, it can be too late for a hero, even a hero like Ursa or Necro or your Dazzle to save you. That's the best damage they needed there, right? Because Neo, it's not been the easiest Dazzle game because these engagements often being taken like a full blink range ahead of him. There's fishes and stuff to watch out for. Chaos Knight's hunting, but came up clutch there thanks to the Trickster's Cloak getting in position for not one but 2 massive shallow grave saves on his team that almost broke the back of the Dire defense. So with a little bit more burst damage up on the Sniper, will it be possible for Neo to do the same again? I mean, the graph is still high. You're still 35,000 net worth ahead. There's still just one lane to take, but this is the problem against Sniper. Everyone knows it always has been. Now that you've only got this one objective left, arguably the throne, but the Sniper knows exactly where you're going to be, and he can just post up there. He doesn't have to come out of position. And they're going to find the Chaos Knight instead. He's a little out of position, but Big Rust is just way too tanky to die to that Reaper's Scythe, and you can see Amos just immediately beats a retreat. Sorry, and Jenkins tries to beat a retreat himself, and E-Blades, but that's not going to be enough. No BKB up on this core proves to be a fatal weakness. And look, I mean, if it seems like the Jakiro is out of position a fair bit, it's probably just because Jakiro is a difficult hero to play as a core and not get out of position occasionally. You kind of have this slow-moving, slow-turning, ranged tank or artillery piece. And, you know, as we've seen throughout the history of warfare, when your team runs, you got to leave your artillery behind, sack it for the opposition. The two-headed dragon is no different, even with this much gold on him. And, I mean, they're just giving stuff back to the opponents. Not so much that, like, the resources of the Radiant are being depleted, but, you know, this Sniper is about to buy a whole Nullifier, looks like. Decent item choice. I Sorry, the Ursa is going to buy a whole nullifier. My apologies. I was about to say, that does not seem like the sniper item, even as I twigged that that's not the sniper's inventory. Just misclicked. But sniper, I mean, at this point, there's a few different things you can go for. You could try and build like an Aeon disc if you were really iffy about protecting your Divine Rapier. I wouldn't mind seeing you go for a butterfly. Like, yeah, there is the Necrophos in the game. Obviously, you could go BKB, but like, I think your team can try to bail you out. I think the problem is just like having to respect the Ursa constantly, and the pressure you put out. I mean, I'm talking about next item, but you don't need one if you can catch out just individual heroes like that. Neo, there's no opportunity to rescue your teammate if you get out of position against this much burst. Sniper just crushes that Dazzle. And so now you can march down mid. Obviously, buybacks are available for the Radiant. They've had the luxury of putting their opponents, you know, on their very last line of defense this whole time. Very few buybacks out of them relatively over the course of this game. But they may be forced to catch up a little bit in those stakes right now. Jakiro is missing, maybe just indicating that that's the hero that's missing buyback. I'm sure they're good enough to count it. Psycho getting lit up there. Actually, Jenkins is able to land a pretty nice ice path there, but there is no follow-up. Interesting, Jenkins now has a refresher orb half built, also rocking, going to consume that Ags, it looks like, and put in a refresher orb. You can see the Jakiro's running out of slots, which is pretty entertaining. Fully final form, stacked, slotted Jakiro. Terrifying to behold. Also rocking that enchanted quiver. Even though it's 60 minutes, you might think, well, why the tier 3 neutral? But the synergy of being able to fire off a Liquid Frost at long range is so powerful. As you can see here, they're just going to get a free kill onto the Undying. Of course, does have the reincarnation talent, it looks like. I was about to say the Aegis, but that's not what that is. So, it goes down in the end. That is a 300-second cooldown on that talent. Technically, I guess it doesn't cost you any sort of limited time resource, but that's pretty hefty. And those are just the kind of things you have to give up sometimes. There's no way out of that situation, and all it takes is Jakiro just firing from the high ground with this very powerful Liquid Frost ability. It's only going to get nastier with, like, double Macropire, double Ice Path, but even more importantly, the double refresh on these items. You know, E-Blade, Brooch, hit, like, E-Blade. Obviously, this is mostly more for, like, smaller engagement. You can see how, it's really interesting to see how a lot of these heroes you would think of as early game heroes that are mostly good at picking off single targets, the fighting hasn't ever gone away from that style, maybe because there's sort of not really strong team fight initiation and stun on the other side to keep them concentrated in the fights. But Ursa tends to chase a hero out of the fight. Marcy disposes someone off to the side of the fight. Amos drags someone the other way. They're doing a really great job of breaking up the positioning of a team who are already quite spread just due to the nature of their heroes. And by doing so, I think they're really extending the lifetime of some of these heroes as we pass the hour mark here. Really getting your money's worth in the first series for Uni League Season 2. Dunker starting to get to the point, though, where he might not get as much money's worth for his items as more and more heroes approach being 6-slotted. We don't have a level 30 hero yet. In fact, we're still waiting on level 29. Ice Frog really took a bat to the XP progression charts this patch. And there is Arcanist Armor, so the tier 5 neutral items are coming out. Ursa Warrior, of course, has Giant's Ring, everyone's favorite. If everyone is me, love that item. Arcanist Armor up for the Necrophos, kind of like a big armor type mech. And you can see the Ursa so unconcerned at this point with that Giant's Ring, able to move over terrain and even just growing larger. I think that extends your attack radius. 60% model scale. I'm not 100% how the attack range is drawn relative to model size. I don't think it directly relates, but perhaps they put something in the back end for Giant's Ring. Regardless, the Ursa will be able to reach his targets, whether by mobility or sheer arm length. Reaching out like Michael Jordan in Space Jam to rip the life out of this dire lineup for what you would imagine would be the last time, right? It's been a while since they decisively lost a team fight, but as soon as it happens, this base is going to look like paper mache against this late game lineup from the devoted lover Chads. And VES1, just farming. I guess that's something to be said for being so far behind for the entire game and still 36,000 net worth down. Is where it's starting at the point where it actually seriously begins to not matter what extra farm a hero like Dunker obtains, or a hero, especially a hero like Jenkins obtains. Like once you eat Once you eat this Aghanim Scepter, you put a Refresher Orb in that slot, you upgrade the Boots of Travel. Maybe at some point you look to replace the Force Staff with like a Hex, or perhaps a personal defensive item. Perhaps you stack Lincolns across the team. Depends on what your team wants to do. You buy late game BKB. But regardless, at some point you just can't spend the money on anything else meaningful. You have to just buy yourself a Moonshard on Jakiro. So, which, you know, again, has the Revenant's Brooch. Not the world's least relevant Moonshard purchase. But it's been a while since we were here, and Sniper sitting on that Divine Rapier, couple of 1,000 gold. Do we have the backup Rapier yet? Are we building that one? Seems like not. Hard to say. Perhaps just, I think just coming to the very obvious conclusion that even if you have a buyback to snap off immediately, I think it might be pretty wishful thinking to get your own Rapier back. Or to be able, even to be able to rejoin the fight with a fresh Rapier after you die, drop the first one. I think at that point, you give your opponents the Rapier, things might just be over for you. Dunker goes back for, I've lost count, but is this our 5th Roshan of the game? 63 minutes. An hour-long Ursa game. They didn't get all of them on the side of the Radiant, but they've gotten the last couple. They've gotten the important ones. You can see Ursa juggling between the Stygian Desolator and the Giant String, kind of greedy. Ex Machina up on Amos makes a lot more sense than holding the team-oriented item he was before. And that is a lot of refreshing. You can quadruple Hex. We've backpacked the Radiance, Refresher and Refresher Shard on the Necro. I mean, Jenkins has a Refresher backpacked, but yeah, they're just going to try and win this game through sheer Reaper's Scythe force alone. Necro's going to have to hide, though. I mean, that's not just a guaranteed win at this point. As we saw in the last couple of fights, not all of these sides are getting kills anymore. They have to really work for it. And so, you know, if Amos overextends trying to get this kind of, like, very outlier, unusual, not a play you practice sequence of scythes to work, and dies without getting them off, could end up backfiring. 47,000 net worth on the mid lane. Necrophos has played a brilliant game, 13-7 and 13, but it'll all be for naught if they can't execute one more time. Smoke up onto the high ground. So much suspense this late phase of the game. It gets instantly scattered by Big Rust, and they don't react. The increased vision of Apex, right? That was the neutral item? Never mind, the fight is joined. Unleashy is the first to go down. Scythed, 90 seconds. Dirt nap prescribed for the Chen. Amos blinks away, of course, not even pressured to use the Refresher necessarily. Little awkward to kind of wander back into range there, but again, Pickle is just so fast, right? It makes these Die Heroes kind of look bad in their positioning, but it's so tight, the line you need to walk to not get Blink disposed back into the lineup, especially now, like, earlier in the game, they were losing some fights because the team couldn't necessarily always afford to just barrel in like that on the target they picked. Look at the super long range dispose through the Lincolns on the Sniper, but there's no follow-up this time. Where was the Ursa Warrior? Sniper just gets pushed backwards, and now, as we've seen before, they're in disarray. Neo, he's not the one they want to get targeted first. He is getting mowed down by that Chaos Knight. Graves himself holds onto his life despite the assassinate and pressure from the illusions. He's going to get all the way out, but Dunker had to go in deep. Are they going to really all just shuffle on out of here? That looked so much worse for the Radiant. Everyone lives. They don't even burn the Aegis. Bad signs for the Dire. Does remind us what it looks like to be 43,000 net worth in the hole. Even with, that was about as an ideal a setup as you can get, right? They completely whiffed the initiation on Psycho. Multiple heroes out of position. Psycho, unfortunately, committed the assassinate a little early on the Dazzle. It hit while he was still in shallow graves. That would have been their way to finish him after the grave finish. This time, though, the Sniper can't get out. He's scythed. He has to buy back. 100-second death timer. They're able to finish him off once. Can they now make good their escape? Amos beats a retreat. What's the Refresher Orb status there? Only use the one. Two more sides of, at least one more side available, so you cannot Refresher Orb with the Ex Machina, but won't need it if they're able to get more kills here. Pickle has already bought back. Vest 1 dies, he buys back. Less and less buybacks going to be available. This might be the final fight, but both teams kind of in half a mind to let it not be. They all fall back and reset. I genuinely don't know who that favors, because on the one hand, the buyback timers are definitely running for the Dire. Three heroes recently bought back for them. Just the Marcy on the side of the Radiant. On the other hand, you can't always get a clean initiation. Obviously, the whole game is very Radiant favored still. Marcy this time gets ripped into the fight by Big Rust. Ursa, Dunker dives into the backline. Wants Psycho. It would be the game if he got him, but it's such a commitment from the Ursa. He is immediately put down. That Divine Rapier made him vanish so fast I thought he might have gotten blinked or something out of there. Instead, he is going to, you know, blink and you'll miss it, die here, pops the Enrage. That was what was missing on the first life. 8,000 net worth. He's looking to buy something to help him get out of that situation. I'm not sure what it'll be. It looks like just the Swiftness blink to maybe, hopefully, bash a little more. Actually, doesn't... Yeah, he does have a bash. A bash a little bit more reliably on the Psycho, but that was tough there. Dunker commits Aegis expended, and it cost them nothing. That was a great Reality Rift in from the Chaos Knight, and a great response from this team. They're playing so well around what is for most of this game being a solo carry sniper, but I mean, at this point, Apex plus 70 strength on the CK. He has 5,500 health, and a Bloodthorn, and a Skadi, and a Halberd. Like, okay, the damage is like leaving a little bit desired, especially when the illusions are killed, but the illusions hit very hard with the 70 extra strength. And, as far as disables go, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit to that. You know, the kills are not eventuating from these initiations, right? The Radiant are going on a target, and even with all of their firepower, they are not necessarily getting the kills. Maybe at some point this Necrophos wants to put, like, Kaya and Sange back in. If this Refresher Shard is just kind of lingering in the inventory, at some point maybe you just burn that and then swap your Refresher Roll back in, right? Like, obviously it's a good resource to have, but the opportunity cost to hold it is not zero. It's been a very long while since a building died for the Dire. Truly just in sniper late game territory, and you start to wonder, even in an official match, even for a team whose win percentage has remained very high, we're actually starting to see it slump. It was in high 90s for a while, now it's down again. Could they be mentally starting to fatigue a little? It's exhausting to have to marshal high ground push after high ground push. How many tier 5 items are up for the Dire is a good question. Even though they've been pinned in their base, it looks like, for some reason I cannot see their neutral items. We'll just have to click on them. Looks like they've got most of them, right? Yeah, they've got their neutral items. Okay, we're in again. Chaos Knight, he gets isolated this time. He dies, but he has buyback. So far, they keep managing to kill the heroes who still have buyback on the side of the Dire. Absolutely nail-biting finish this is evolving into here in the first game of the first set of week 1, at least for me, of season 2 of Uni League here. They're going on Psycho, pop the Lincolns, dispose backwards, Echo Slam, combo breaker, but then again they get him out of here. He just doesn't have a way out, and that's going to be it almost certainly. 2 heroes died back already, Big Rust is there, but you know, you wish you could reality rift a teammate sometimes. That sniper trapped on the wrong side of his team's own fissure, but really just on the wrong side of his own fountain, and not having the mobility or the buybacks in the end to find an escape. And so now it's all over, bar the clapping. G is hanging in there for a long while. This is a tanky Undying. No one can deny that. Even has a second life. But that second life nowhere near as impactful as that of the Ursa. And so finally, I wouldn't say inevitably, because that was quite a defense. The damn wall was beginning to break, but it all gets patched up. Order is restored, and so after 71 minutes of what felt largely like one-sided dominance, despite it taking 71 minutes, the UQ devoted lover chads take that game 1. So, good God. Alright, that is just game 1. Of course, this is a BO2 set, as we usually experience here in the group stages of Uni League, AEL, Dota 2. Don't go anywhere, obviously. We're just going to take a quick look at these graphs over time. We're interested to see the individual net worths, right? Particularly the cores. Here's the Necro. Here's the Sniper. And then here's the Ursa. Here is the Chaos Knight. That about tells you the whole story. That, and of course, the sheer number of assists on this Marcy, the kills on this Jakiro, 21, 5, and 23, maybe going to merit a ban itself in the next game. But of course, we're going to take a bit of a break before that one, and we'll see you in a few minutes. You know, stick around, maybe get a drink if you're as thirsty as I am after that. But make sure you keep thirsty for Dota 2 as well, because there's more action coming up after this break. Welcome back, everybody, to week 1 of season 2 here in the AEL Uni League. It's obviously, if you were here with us a few minutes ago, we saw an absolute marathon game, one over an hour, classic sniper high ground defense. That was from AUE Black. They were the ones holding onto that high ground with their fingernails, but ultimately they were dragged from the cliff like Mufasa in The Lion King. The body weight of the devoted lover Chad's just too heavy, too much force, too much pressure, and in fact so much pressure that the teams needed an extended break after that first game. We had to sort some things out here, but we are now all back in here for maybe a faster game too. It is a best of 2 tonight. But, you know, we still have to play it out. It's important for standings. Even as early as week 1, every point matters. As in our experience, often in the U-League, it does come down to the smallest of margins at the end of these group stages, you know, which teams get over the line. So while we wait for the drafts to get started, let's just go over, you know, those other so important teams. That's our team of sponsors who are the ones, you know, kind of keeping the Uni League going, giving us this space to celebrate esports and elevate some up-and-coming university talent. So, of course, first of all, we've got Predator, helping you conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming. They are the gaming PC partner of AEL, providing PC parts and performance computing to help us conquer new worlds. They put power and precision in your hands, elevating your gaming experience in every way with quality and performance that is just characteristic of the Predator brand. And then, of course, AOC, the best viewing experience, are our monitor partner. They are the global leader in monitor display technology. For more than 50 years, they have delivered an exceptional viewing experience to millions of loyal customers worldwide, and they offer a wide selection of monitors for gaming, for the home, for the office, all possible uses. So check out AOC today. And of course, last but not least, Rig. They are our headset sponsor. They have what it takes to win. They develop headsets, delivering superior audio to competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. So make sure that you do the best for yourself and join the Rig team today, joining the Radiant team today, joining the side of AUE Black. They've reached deep into the bag of tricks and brought out the Primal Beast. I was cut. We didn't get to see this hero in game 1 today of this series, but luckily we will not go wanting for it in total because the Radiant have snapped it up. First pick. First pick is pretty bold, I must say, right? Like, obviously, this hero is, I think, typically considered an offlaner right now. It has pretty flexible positioning, but seems like its best position is there. Maybe as a 4-pos. But yeah, Primal Beast Techies, a really powerful offlane combo. I'm a huge fan of doing this in my pubs with some friends. The Primal Beast has a really powerful AoE kind of team fighting disable, limited by the fact that it is a channel, right? And Primal Beast, maybe the most BKB dependent hero. I never thought I'd be, you know, putting someone above, say, Dawnbreaker in that competition of strength utility cause, but Primal Beast definitely desperate for magic immunity. That being said, as long in the early game you can find a target who doesn't have a handy friendly stun nearby to interrupt it, you can hold people in place for spells like Techi's Blast Off or the proximity mines and really just decimate the hit points of any hero, even those tanky strength cores that have been popular of late. Another hero that's been popular of late is Dazzle. Of course, he saw it in game 1. And backing up a Storm Spirit, pretty potent. You can see maybe a similar issue could arise to what we saw in the mid-game that maybe helped contribute to the length of game 1. There were some hiccups for the side of the devoted lover Chads because their supports and their non-blinking cores couldn't keep up with the real initiators, the heroes diving the backline to really secure the kills. It kind of got strung out a little bit, but you know, I'm sure Storm Spirit will remain disciplined for the most part. Now, Wind Ranger snapped up. Is it just me? Is Wind Ranger's model enormous? What's going on with that? I mean, I guess the heroes are kind of angled towards the middle, but it just looks weird that Storm Spirit looks so tiny over there for the devoted lover Chads, and even Primal Beast kind of looks a bit short as this towering Windrunner steps into center stage. I think the hero actually got nerfed, so, you know, maybe not a giant of Dota at the moment, and hasn't been quite as popular here as she was in her heyday with that busted shard a few mages ago, but still very powerful. She has had her strength gain decreased. There was a change to how the scepter affects her wind run. It's gone back to that weird invisibility that, you know, Ice Frog can't quite decide what Wind Ranger scepter should do. Since it got changed from sort of that quite repugnant focus fire cheesy kill tool But, you know, it's not like you would expect this hero to necessarily be rushing an Ags. If this even is a core hero, we could easily see it be building items similar to what we saw from the core Jakiro in the previous game, as Jakiro is, of course, banned out, in fact, by the Radiant themselves. And, alright, this is starting to make more sense. We've grabbed a Bounty Hunter, so multiple disabling heroes, quite fast heroes, quite long-ranged heroes, several different spells that set up well from the disables of the Primal Beast, or can be set up by the Shackle Shot, if you're able to just hit a Blink Shackle, you know, cleanly, with no further initiation. Bounty Hunter going to be helping make sure that you have the targets you need, because Primal Beast does have a really powerful, quite fast range initiation tool in his Q, his charge, but you have to know where you're going. So having a scouting hero like Bounty Hunter, and even Techies is quite good for vision. These heroes all have a very nice synergy with each other, but you are picking Bounty, that means into Slardar, so one of the best natural invis counters in the game. Obviously, Bounty Hunter not all about the invisibility, but it is a noteworthy tool for the devoted lover chads to have already picked up. And on top of that, they've got the Lich. So two very kind of selfless support heroes here, Lich and Dazzle. Slardar and Storm Spirit. Slardar in particular, pretty good hero for not caring about getting a ton of levels. I mean, obviously you like getting levels, you like being tanky on these strength supports, because I guess you think of them as a level-based hero because they don't depend as much on items, but Slardar can certainly scale with items, and, you know, the talents are fine, but, you know, this is a hero that dominates by the end of the laning phase, and I can see all you'd get is a Blink Dagger and maybe some braces on this Slardar, and you can be the point man for the Storm Spirit. Dazzle and Lich in the back is a sort of combination of counter initiation and save. It's all looking very potent right now for the UQ Big Chads, and it seems like they've got a lot of spots on their team filled, which is a nice luxury to have going into the last pick of the draft. So now a few more bans to come out. Now, presumably, this is not safe lane Slardar. I stand by that pick, but most teams would prefer a more conventional safe laner, and that's fair enough. UQ Big Chads, though, they're also assuming the Radiant are yet to pick their safe laner, which seems like a very safe bet. Safe lane bounty, not completely unheard of in the Australian scene, but I don't think either of these teams are going to go for it. So that's Monkey and Slark removed by the Big Chads, but the Radiant, they ban out Wyvern and Zeus, so they think it might actually be a safe lane Slardar, or perhaps even a safe lane Storm, and maybe like a mid Dazzle, or a core Wyvern, a Zeus. They're angling for something different, which is interesting. We'll see what the Big Chads go for. It's hard to contest the fact that picking a greedy, another sort of farming, melee, damage dealing hero in the offlane was a big part of the weakness of the draft that AUE lost with in game 1. So maybe that's why they're reading that the Big Chads won't go for that sort of hero in Slardar offlane. Not that I would really compare Slardar offlane or I guess it was Chaos Knight safe lane rather in the end, but just having that kind of secondary core, because Sniper was your real one position. They go for Pudge instead, so that's a nice pickup. I wonder if we're going to still see the core Pudge. Some people saw the patch notes and said that core Pudge is dead. I think that might just be an overreaction. I think if heroes like Marcy have survived their nerfs, this hero really only got touched in a couple of places and very lightly. It seems like Ice Frog is, you know, maybe not so urgently rushing to end Pudge's time in the sun as a hero that's very rarely been a prominent part of the professional meta. That being said, Infamous Amos locking in that puck was a stud in the mid lane in game 1. Definitely looking to get the job done here again in game 2. And so, yeah. Puck here, looking very normal, right? Classic complement for Lich, Slardar, these heroes you need to run away from. So then you've got Storm Spirit, a hero that's great at chasing, and Puck, a hero that prevents you from running away. Dazzle is there just for, you know, the additional slow and control in the laning phase mostly. Stops heroes like Slardar and Storm getting turned on, so that, you know, you don't need to worry too much about going in deep and overcommitting. Worked well for them in game 1, and, you know, it shows that you've got a talented Dazzle player who's able to avoid enemy heroes interrupting him, so why not go with it again? And so we get in the game here. I'm very comfortable looking at their draft and understanding what it can do. What's more of an unknown quantity is this Radiant draft from AUE. Definitely looking faster pace, which I don't blame them, right? After a nearly 70 minute game 1 I think we had, that must have been exhausting, defending that high ground for minutes and minutes and minutes. Like, it's hard to break the high ground. It's hard to hold it as well. It's boring. It's tiring. It's a tax on your mental energy, especially for you know, the way that game was, how on point they had to be with a counter initiation at all times. So I don't blame them for trying to go for a complete flip of the script. This is a very aggressive, kill-focused early game draft. We're going for, is this one position? One position beast? No, this has to be core Pudge. Right? I fully don't know. The beast has a hatchet. AUE orange? Okay. Well, whichever AUE team this is. We've got a Pudge down here now. And if this Primal Beast is the core or the Pudge is the core, I really don't mind. They've both got Quelling Blade. So we're going to say it's one position Pudge and support Primal Beast. That makes a lot more sense. Primal Beast, definitely a hero that doesn't need a lot of gold to get a lot done. Really kind of just needs a Blink Dagger at some point, which is... It's kind of like a genre of support at this point, right? Dawnbreaker, this, a couple of other strength heroes where you... Oh, what is happening? Unleashy wanders in front of the hook. They don't hook the bounty rune. They don't hook the enemy hero. They hook the Primal Beast back. Jenkins walks off with the bounty. They tip the Pudge. So I guess it's a favorable trade in terms of Dota plus points. Maybe not off to the best start. That's all right. We're doing fine. You forget all the hooks you miss. You remember the hooks that go big. And yeah, we'll have to see how these lanes go. We've got top lane core bounty hunter, which, you know, I respect as a thing, but I would have almost preferred the core techies here, right? Because the thing that this is one problem, right? Techie's not a hero that trades that well with opposing supports, kind of long cooldown spells, especially if you don't take Sticky Bomb level 1. And bounty hunter in lane against Slardar, I mean, the Janata is what you want to be leveraging as core bounty in lane. I've seen this hero do tremendously well against more passive laners like, say, a Spectre or a Faceless Void, like the kind of heroes that don't really kill you in lane. They try to just survive, so you heavily tax them for showing up. But Slardar is not one of those heroes. Slardar Dazzle, this is a lane that will kill you. So Bounty Hunter has to be extremely careful for walking in a melee range of a Slardar to trade hits, because every time you Janata him, he's going to bash you, and I don't know if you always come out ahead there. So Unleashy, ooh, they try the hook, but poor old Fat Control on the Psycho here, whiffing hard with that hook toss. Psycho, of course, back in the mid lane, it will be mid Wind Ranger, so we might be seeing another int core build. It worked very well for the Jakiro in the previous game out of the off lane, building that Witchblade, eventually upgrading into that, I forget the name of it, there's sort of Locket. I forget how to build a Witchblade. There we go. Revenant's Brooch, sorry. Should just remember Visage. But already Bounty Hunter having a bit of trouble at the top lane. Although, who is troubling who? VES1. I made some complaints about the Blast-Off skilling, but it almost gets a kill on Neo there. Only the increased delay, I think, actually, sorry, the slow got upgraded on the Sticky Bomb, right? It wasn't a nerf. But yeah, just taking a little bit too long to explode the nature of that skill. Not able to bring down the Dazzle in time. That being said, did bail out G on the bounty, and you can see G continuing to try and trade with this Janata, with the Shuriken. It's going to be tight. VS1 does kill Neo, so it's going to be first blood to the Radiant, even though the Bounty Hunter does go down, so do your own maths as to whether or not that's worthwhile. You get the first kill and the first blood. That's probably pretty good, but you give the XP and gold over to the enemy core wall. Your offlaner dies, not so great. Maybe you're just giving him more gold for the Bounty Hunter to Janata back. Meanwhile, at bottom lane, it's a similar situation. You can see lots of high-risk, high-reward heroes here on the side of AUE. All it takes is one good hook combo into Rampage, I believe it's called Trample, rather, for the Primal Beast. But you can see here without the charge, Primal Beast walking in now, pops the Uproar as well, so increasingly tanky, radiating that damage, but trying to step to a Storm Spirit with the Lich Armor on him. That's the problem. This is such a difficult lane composition. You don't expect the off-lane Storm Spirit. Or is this is support Storm Spirit with 9 mangoes from Big Knee Love? What's happening? Okay, Big Knee Love are really pushing back the boundaries of Dota as we understand it here. But it's working, right? The spam of the Remnant and the Overload is enough magic damage to gobble through these very tanky 2 heroes, which normally they expect to be able to get their way and force an all-in fight in their favor. But the control, especially with the Ice Armor and all the slows from the Lich, it's really nullifying what felt like an overwhelming lane advantage, and that's bad news for the Radiant safe lane. But we'll see how things end up. The Pudge is at least farming, and if this does indeed appear to be core Lich, we'll have to see what Jenkins can do. Really getting experimental here. They are a game up in the series, and it is the first, like, day of a new patch, basically, so it is the time for experimentation. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how this all goes, but I don't mind it. They kind of baited with that Storm Spirit pick, it looks like. And instead of having a difficult Storm Spirit game against the lengthy silence of the Techies or the Shackle Shot of the Wind Ranger, Blink Shackle, pretty immediate disable, now you've just got this pesky mobile vision gathering support. Like range Bounty Hunter with no track, sort of, kind of, not really. Big Knee Lover showing off that early conduit, the early electric vortex, pulling in Unleashy, but of course, Primal Beast with this uproar ability, really hard to bring down, especially once you've tapped it a couple of times. The damage stacks up, the armor stacks up, and you know, suddenly your physical damage isn't going through, and even for a lane with Lich and Storm Spirit, there's still a good component of physical damage. Every hero is a physical damage hero in the early game, and alright, we're practicing our hooks down here in the bottom lane. Maybe you're trying to, like, fake your opponent out, think they're going to walk in front of the melee creep there, or the creep was going to move, but not the case. And now with the hook on cooldown, they go on Unleashy. So, Fat Control, I mean, if you ever hit one of these hooks, it's going to look really good, but in the meantime, cooldown being exploited here by the Dire. Meanwhile, at the top lane, things are more successful. G is pinching money with the Janata. They're going on Neo. This is a lot of damage. In comes the blast off. If he had this, he does not have the Shallow Grave skilled yet, and they punish that hard. Dazzle dies again. So at least one of these lane combinations is working out. We're seeing a lot of payoff here for this Bounty Techies lane. And this is like not a duo of heroes that are focused really on the laning phase either. Oh, actually, Infamous Amos, he's focused on the kills. The killing phase comes up here looking for the Techies, even commits the Dream Coil. Can't fault that per se. Has just a Blitz Knuckles. You can see rushing the Witchblade prior to boots. I have to go. Now I'm like, did I miss some massive Witchblade buff? It's been very focused by both teams so far in both games. But yeah, that is a very aggressive build here coming out of the puck. And paying off with early kills, it looks like. We'll see if that can keep up though. No, Witchblade just lost 2 intelligence. That's all that changed about the item. Guess it's just these heroes. And now Unleashy goes in. They've got the Techies as well. Here's the combo, right? Why would you wait any longer to start doing this? This team's all about the early game damage scaling, and although it does take them a while to bring down Big Knee Lover, they get the kill on the Storm in the end. It cost them a Techies. Punch hooks the Lich back in. I don't know if that's going to work out. I mean, you basically know you're consigning yourself to death there, and it will be a few seconds until Unleashy has the charge ready. Doesn't go for it. I don't think the onslaught could have reached even at that close range. So, bit of a calculated risk by the Pudge, but yeah, unfortunately there's no stick. Wasn't able to walk around behind the tree. The Lich able to finish the Pudge off, and so with no further control, Unleashy doesn't quite get the spell back in time to prevent the teleport away. So, rough stuff. But I mean, it is a Pudge. You'd almost rather be fighting than farming, even as a core. Those Flesh Heap stacks will eventually come in and bolster your strength by quite a bit. Occult Bracelet, also a really nice item on a lot of these heroes. I'm quite interested. Like, this is an item people are still getting used to, but it's great for a lot of carries farming jungle. It's great for a lot of strength heroes who go into a fight but have mana problems potentially. And Unleashy is definitely one of those heroes. Wandering in and out of these fights as the Primal Beast, but all the kills that have gone the side of the Dire, especially the fact that experience was split before, starting to add up. Unleashy a level behind. He goes down. Big Knee Lover just spending all his money on mangoes here, kind of sacking his own early game to prop up Jenkins, and it's working out great. That time does go down, though. Fat Control hits a good hook this time. Brings down the Storm. So, again, like I said, if you're the Pudge, you don't mind fighting and trading. It might cost him his life here, or it might not. He has a hatchet, a Quelling Blade. He's able to cut through the trees. Can he keep the Jukes going? Unleashy gets knocked back on the hook. The hook! He hooks the Primal Beast. Fat Control, no! He thought maybe that the Lich was going to juke, but he throws the hook wide. Yeah, gets a bruh from Jenkins. Windranger's power shot also not finding it. That was so well played. The Jukes under the tower there for the Pudge, and he just kind of whiffs it at the end there. I guess it's good that you're practicing your Pudge, because it looks like these hooks are a little rusty, and I don't just mean on the model. Neo, though, there's one not missing with these sticky bombs. Obviously, it's a much easier spell to hit. But, okay, they thought they might turn it around with the Shallow Grave on Neo, but Psycho with a perfectly timed rotation. It was all a bait all along. And the mid lane Windranger, after finding no love at bottom lane getting kills, runs up top and gets a double. Those were not track kills, is the only tragedy. G is level 5 on the bounty still, not able to get it. They get a kill at bottom lane, 2 kills actually, double kill streak for Jenkins. That was the Chain Frost, so Big Knee Lover baiting them in, and Fat Control on the bottom lane. This Pudge, unfortunately, things starting to spiral out of control. I mean, it is a Pudge. Look, this is not the lane you expect. 9 Mango Storm Spirit support. They're just constantly, look at this max Overload. I have to see how much damage Overload does at the end of the game. They're just getting barraged in the bottom lane. How can you move around? How can you get on top of people to apply Rot and to apply Trample if you're being constantly slowed by Lich Frost Armor, Frost Blast, and this Overload spam from Storm Spirit? Now Storm has the ball lightning. I guess that's one way, is you can just straight up hit a hook. Jenkins doesn't even have the Storm in support, so this time he's in trouble. There comes the charge. 5 times mega kill streak ended. Jenkins is very lucky that Ice Frog just nerfed the XP reward for ending streaks, but that's still a big kill to give back to the Pudge, and so somehow it all works out for the big man in the end. VES1 making this techies look good. Had a great game on the Earthshaker last game as well, so big fan of their gameplay. G on the Bounty Hunter still trying to get that track up, but it does look like he's going to be able to be left alone here, as Neo has left the lane. Only level 4 on the Dazzle, perhaps looking to protect, teammates from the engagements around there. And VES1, unfortunately, tests his luck a bit too much. The level 4 bash on the slider does a lot of damage to a fragile techies. And G going to test his own luck, but you got to watch out for that. Look at the minus armor from that Corrosive Haze, but it's another bait. Psycho has drifted over. This time it's the power shot. Psycho, there's one player who doesn't miss. And that's big again, this Wind Ranger. Popping off out of the mid lane, trying to build an MKB. We're returning with a V to the olden days. May not have that focus fire on the Ags anymore, but you may not need it if you're just farmed enough. Amos, meanwhile, has finished his Witchblade and bought his boots. And, yeah, we see Psycho roaming around on this beast. Sorry, Unleash roaming around on this beast near Psycho. Does have Pulverize now. That's that channeled, ultimate, weird, single target channel. It's sort of like a Fiend's Grip that's melee range, but projects disable around itself. Obviously, you know, everyone has had a chance to see this hero, although he hasn't been as popular since the initial nerfs, I feel like, in pubs. And Unleashy kind of showing why the hero, it's all about the offense. One of those heroes that really, really can look bad on defense when you're losing the game. And, I mean, they're losing the game right here to a Lich ultimate. Jenkins picks up a double kill, ends up being a 3-for-1 trade. Unfortunately, Techies jumps into the Pudgy, which is their combo, right? They've got some really smart ideas about how to utilize these long disables that their strength cores bring. However, they are aptly punished right now by the Lich ultimate and other spells. Psycho bails out Bounty Hunter with a very nice shackle shot onto Dunker, who is no doubt about to crush him. But now they're chasing after Amos, and G has that track online, so definitely kind of skirmishing, staying in range. They want to fight, especially if it's not that kind of awful in full retreat kind of way. They're very eager to clash with the Dire right now. With how these heroes are set up, they get so much benefit from fighting. Stacks on the Pudge, gold from the Bounty Hunter. Psycho laying into this puck, but there's no immediate follow-up. Here comes the Primal Beast. Doesn't get the disabling time on Amos and then gets pulled. Obviously, it's pretty hard to go faster than the phase shift, but ends up settling for a grab, a Pulverize on a Big Knee Lover. There's one just short Big Knee Lover. Beautiful juke, actually. I don't know if that was even in range to get silenced by the blast off, but Big Knee makes sure with that the 1-inch ball lightning. And Infamous Amos toying with Psycho now. Sets him up with the Dream Coil. Stays slightly out of range. And Big Knee Lover, no fear. With all of these mangoes, you know he's got the juice to go in and finish things with that ball lightning damage. Now Amos toying with the rest of the team. They pick off S1 on the techies. G just needs maybe one more volley of shuriken tosses. But even with the track up on the puck, they can't get a kill. I mean, it wouldn't have gotten the kill by itself. Only a level 2 shuriken. He hasn't maxed it yet, but that's a rough engagement. And we're seeing again, that was so close, right? If you're able to immediately follow up, I mean, it's tough because Primal Beast, you cannot cancel this. You cannot stop. I guess you can. When it says you cancel anytime with stop command, you can cancel it during the charge up, right? I don't think you can stop the onslaught mid rush. I probably shouldn't talk out the side of my mouth like that, but you could see how close he was to connecting with Amos. If he'd been able to hit it right at the end of the charge and immediately follow up with the Pulverize during the start, you can see Unleashy. That's a better one. That's a better Pulverize. They pick up the kill on Dunker. That's an important one. They do lose Vest on the backside. 4 Dire heroes pursuing Unleashy out of there, but there are reinforcements. Dream Coil onto 2, not the Wind Ranger this time though, and the Lich ult's completely wasted. G just kind of runs forward. It will mean his death, but he is doing the team thing. Make sure that Chain Frost does not actually chain. It's just a Frost this time. It's good enough though. Dire are going to be satisfied with that trade and beat a retreat. Need to refuel the Storm Spirit. He's out of mangoes. No more mangoes queued up for Big Knee Lover, is he? He's moving on from his true love. Ice Frog will be displeased. I thought we were going to see some sort of, like, secret Ice Frog recipe where you can combine, like, 12 mangoes in your inventory and you get some sort of, like, giant mango boulder you can roll down lanes and crush creeps. I don't know. In any case, Storm Spirit, now satisfied with the support job done in lane, happy to buy real items, which, if we're putting our serious hats back on for a second, definitely more efficient. I'm hearing a dismember, but it's just on neutrals, which is a bit unfortunate because the Dire are coming up your high ground right now. Puck threatening with that Witchblade and travel so fast. That's actually a haste rune making him faster, but it's not like he needed that much help to begin with. And Unleashy, unfortunately, arriving a little late to this one. Oh, the Pudge, though. Great hook. Sights up Neo, but unfortunately the mobility of this Dire lineup means that even the repositioning of the hook, like the ability to, the mobility and repositioning that the Radiant have isn't inconsiderable, but it's just outgunned by a team that has Slardar, Storm, and Puck, and unfortunately, they just overrun the Radiant. It's a 5-man wipe, 7,000 net worth lead now. It's still not even close to that traditional stomp metric here in the AEL Uni League. You know, we've seen our fair share of one-sided matches. There's obviously, when you're playing with, you know, the players available at your university, it's not quite as stratified in terms of MMR as, you know, the normal competitive scene. So you do sometimes get players who are able to just, like, outplay their way to an easy win and carry their teams, and so, you know, I'm used to seeing games be like at a 1k net worth lead per minute mark, certainly by this time in the game. Sometimes see a racks going down well before 20 minutes, and this doesn't seem to be that kind of game. But just like in game 1, the devoted lover chads are finding a bit more out of the map. The hero combinations seem to be hitting a bit more consistently. They're keeping their key pieces alive in the fights. And we saw in game 1, even if you play very well for the whole rest of the game, falling behind early on is a difficult thing to come back from. I don't know whether that's just the nature of the drafts in the first game, or whether it's part of the patch where not being able to get that big XP swing from ending streaks anymore is taking a chunk out of your comeback potential. I mean, no doubt it does, but how large a one, I suppose. And Psycho, after fighting one long 70-minute rearguard battle and getting really nothing for it other than the moral high ground, is going to have to hope that the team can do more now. They are going to start off well. They open up Dunker. Easy track money for the win range, but that's Focus Fire down. Orchid Malevolence in the backpack, so I thought we were going for an MKB. Fat Control on target with the hook, but Puck just disjoints. You can see only one level in the meat hook, really not that interested in spamming it out, understanding pretty low value skill this game, and much more important to max out that flesh heap. Was slightly nerfed, but only in terms of, I believe, giving it like a mana cost that was higher, so still as potent a skill as it was previously, and really makes Pudge hard to bring down. But both teams kind of congregating in the top lane here for a fight. Storm Spirit in. Hook not going to do too much, obviously. Again, this is what happens when you first pick Pudge. It gets pretty hard countered. And unfortunately... Oh! Speaking of low impact, Dream Coil just kind of airballs there. Don't worry, no one saw that. Psycho gonna follow up, but unfortunately, even with no Dream Coil... Oh, they were so ready. Look at that counter initiation combo. There's one in. Primal Beast in. If the Wind Ranger was still alive, that would be so big. They still end AOC. That time, Unleashy lined it up perfectly. The onslaught hitting Puck right at the end of the charge means there's time to grab him while he's still stunned from that onslaught and pulverize him, slamming the Puck down right onto the landmine techies he just placed, obliterating that fragile fairy dragon for a huge sum of gold. Basically turns the fight into an easy Radiant win, the net worth wise, in one sick play. And if only they'd been able to execute that a second earlier, might have all been well, but someone had to bait. Now they're going to try and use that space to open up Jenkins on the Lich, Fat Control on the Pudge, find some revenge for the early game laning phase, but Lich has put out that Ice Shard already. Look at that! That's able to easily secure the kill on Fat Control instead of just taking one bounce from the Ice Blast and leaving that Frost Pillar. That's the Shard, right? Ice Spire, sorry, I didn't know what to call it. Literally just to slow and increase the damage of the Chain Frost, but that's exactly what it's there for, the rare Lich 1v1 opportunity. Maybe not so rare for Core Lich, and certainly when your opponent isn't able to juke away, or in that case hook a creep over to share the hits,
very punishing stuff. Brings down the tanky boy of the Radiant. So now, with that hero being killed, maybe Dire thinking about a Roshan. Maybe not. They have a lot of minus armor. It feels like they could do it pretty easily at any time, but maybe they're going to wait on even more minus armor. Slardar building up a Desolator. Has the Dagger of Ristal. Lots of talk about this new tier 2 neutral item. Generates 40 damage for 8 seconds when you press the button. It costs you 100 health, which, like, okay, it costs you 100 health, but that's 1/17 of your health pool. That's really not too bad at all on a strength hero. So basically, 40 damage for the most important, you know, the lion's share of an early fight, and 10 attack speed at all times. Like, when you consider how good Armlet is as a farming item, this is sort of kind of an Armlet. Nice blink away by Dunker as well. Very potent stuff for a hero with this much physical damage. He really will, you know, catch you out with a random... If you let yourself get bashed by Slardar, which is kind of, you know, the table stakes for laning against him, if he just to walk up and hit you, you're going to die to that bash crush combo. You might not need it, though. There are other ways for the team to get the kills here on the Dire, but actually backfiring a little bit as the Storm Spirit goes in. It's just a support. Can't finish off the techies, but luckily the team is there in support. Veswan buys back, but they don't have the artillery without him immediately there to finish the Storm, and he's able to ball away from those prox mines just in time. Bit of a Yule Scepter self-save there, paying off big for Big Knee Lover. So just the techies buyback force, no real damage on the tower, no real damage to the rest of the team, but that is, you know, some economic pain. You'd love to see the techies getting some items. This hero can really accelerate farm and can have huge impact in the late game fights. I'm really a fan of this hero just as a support generically, especially in this forward position. Like, obviously with these multiple AoEs, you can farm incredibly fast. You can even split push because the proximity mines still hurt towers now that it's charge based. You don't need to sit on a tower for like cooldowns and cooldowns and cooldowns to really lay in. You can just mine and leave if you're really committed to the rat game. Right now, the Radiant, they are rats leaving a sinking ship. Dunker gets tracked, but that doesn't stop the blink, doesn't do any damage. Just lets them know how screwed they are. As Fat Control trying to waddle out of here on the Pudge. At least he's the tanky one. The Flesh Heap keeping him alive. And now Unleashy coming through. Huge Pulverize. Would have killed the Dazzle were it not for an incidental Shallow Grave. He stays alive. Psycho hits a double Shackle Shot, but there's so much damage. The Frostspire dominating this fight, and unfortunately, there's too much support lost already. So the gold lead, or the gold deficit rather, that the Radiant were already at, maybe turning the tables in that fight, or just the fact that the initiation was so rough to begin with. Were they better positioned? Had they a couple more items? Maybe that turns around, but even with that great Pulverize, even with saving their Pudge for the time being, they just can't quite put it all together. It wasn't a coordinated fight. It was a scrambled defense, and with how mobile and how jukey this Dire lineup is, they're very, very good at swapping aggro from each other, right? Multiple heroes are able to blink or jump in, stun you to peel you off a target. They're very mobile. That person, as soon as you're not hitting them, that person's gone. They're blinked away, sprinted away. They have the vision over you. They have the slow from the Lich's Ice Spire, which was massive in that fight. I don't know whether it's just the visuals, but yeah, this lineup's really coming together. And of course, you know, Fat Control has the Aghanim Scepter now on the Pudge, so looking good. Still has some Flesh Heap stacks going. Obviously, the fighting favors them, even when it doesn't necessarily go all their way directly. But the gold lead is still kind of steadily descending towards the Dire more and more as time goes on. Still not quite at that stomp mark yet. It's 14k net worth lead. You can see it's even slightly going down, hovering around the 15k mark. But these heroes are building. Big Knee Lover. Okay, I was wondering what interim item Big Knee Lover might build on this Storm Spirit. I was thinking maybe you go a Solar Crest, maybe you go Rod of Atos, maybe you go a Ghost Scepter, something of it. Nope, straight for the full Wind Waker, which, alright, we'll see how that works out. See whether he's able to get that on the 4-pod Storm Spirit. Initiation, counter-initiated by the Techies and the Primal Beast. You can see it coming together, right? Fat Controller stays alive, but this Lich ultimate is the bane of their existence. It's just too much damage in the early game. They don't have BKBs up, and they can't survive it. You can see the game plan for the Radiant, and I like it. I like the idea. They have really tanky heroes. They have very, very powerful AoEs. If you can't control your opponent's mobility, you just have to make sure that you're as strong as possible wherever they choose for the fight to take place. But the problems we're seeing is that they're just not quite strong enough to survive the extreme punishment of the Chain Frost when all of those Radiant heroes are stacked up. And I mean, yeah, an 18k net worth, 40 to 15 at 23 minutes. It's a GG call from AUE. They did lose game 1, so that it was a choice between a draw and a loss, and you can't necessarily say with a Pudge carry in the state that it was, and the Primal Beast Gambit having not worked out, like, it only gets harder from there. Primal Beast does fall off. He's sort of the new Undying, harder than nearly any hero in Dota 2. The Storm Spirit support was starting to outscale you, so an understandable L to take, but I mean, it was closer than it looked. If maybe a Fat Control had hit more of those hooks in the early laning phase, I kind of feel like this 1-8 Primal Beast got hung out to dry a little bit by the Pudger support. You're like, bruh, these hooks. You're hooking me. You're airballing the hooks. If you get a few more of those kills, if you don't fall behind on the levels early on, if you're able to punish this very greedy lane a bit more. I mean, Big Knee Lover spent probably 800 gold on mangoes or something. Maybe that's an exaggeration. That was a lot of mangoes bought. If you don't get a commensurate reward in kills, that's not going to work out for you in the long run as a 4-position Storm, but they knew what they were doing, and Jenkins really shows up on this core Lich. I feel like without this hero specifically off lane, maybe that wouldn't have worked out at all, but that Ice Pillar Chain Frost combo rushed into the Sinister Gaze Ags with this Aether Lens. It just proved to be the perfect set of tools for chain disabling all these melee heroes, keeping them stacked up on each other, and really trivializing the team fights. And if a team like this can't team fight, I mean, you're not going to you've picked a bounty hunter and a Pudge. You're not going to out economy your opponents by spreading the map. So suddenly you find yourself checkmated, and sometimes that's what you go for. You tried playing a nice, safe, conservative game 1. You took it 70 minutes, didn't work, even as long as you held on. Game 2, you say, all right, how about this? We're going to try and surprise you, push all our chips across the table. Still no dice. The wall of the devoted lover Chads holds fast in the face of some spirited oppositions. But obviously, that's only the first game of the first week of Season 2 here in AEL Uni League. Shoutouts to both teams for playing this out. And we'll be welcoming them again next week and in the coming weeks of the group stage as we really shake the tree and see what falls out among the best university Dota sides in Australia. For now, though, that has been our Dota 2 action for tonight. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks, of course, to our sponsors. Make sure you check them out, AOC, Predator, and Rig. And if you want, you can check me out at A Wandering Bard on Twitter, not just for Dota 2 esports, but also fighting games, card games, lots of different stuff I cover. Really appreciate it. All of the content is there. And, of course, the rest of the esports content in terms of actual gameplay is on AEL's channel. So make sure you follow AEL on Twitter. Make sure you follow this Twitch channel if that's where you're watching it. Make sure you sub to the YouTube if that's where you're watching the highlights. Make sure you support AEL and all they do to keep the university and Australian esports scene going. For now, though, that'll be it for this week. I'll see you next time. I've been the Wandering Bard. Have a good night.